I'm going to open tonight's meeting. Today is May 6th, 2025. It is 6:02. We're going to open the Charlton Board of Health meeting. This is televised. Everything is recorded in voice and picture. First order of business, John, I'd like to see if we can accept the prior minutes for April 8th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to accept prior meeting minutes for April 8th, 2025.
Do I have a second? I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So
Done.
that's good. Next, we're going to move on to the accessory dwellings, the ADUs. So this is kind of new territory for us as far as what we're going to allow and what we need to be prepared for, and we want to just talk about it at the beginning before these things start popping up left and right. Basically, we're merging land and allowing smaller dwellings, 900 square foot buildings-ish, to go on existing properties that already have dwellings. The impact is septic systems and I think well water from where we stand. So I think we need to come up with a plan so we're not running out of water and we're not, overdoing the septic systems. So I think we just need to chat about that and see if we can come up with a discussion that allows these things, that's not too painful for the general public, but we don't want them, running out of water or whatnot. So Tom, I'm going to start with you. I'd like to talk on the septic part of it first, but I want to wait for the water for Steve.
One of the things, just to clarify, I think that from what I understood, Kurt said that they have changed it, the town can change the minimum size. The state says 900 square feet, and I think that Kurt said something about going to 1,200 square feet.
As long as the house meets the requirements of the size of the house,
Exactly.
it doesn't exceed that size. So I think it's 900 minimum, but Charlton's going to go to 12. I'm not sure if it was approved or not, but that's what Kurt was mentioning about that you would do the 1,200 square feet.
So is there a maximum? I thought the 900 was a maximum.
That's what, again, that's one of the things that Kurt was talking about.
Any of the paperwork if I read is 900 is what the state has accepted.
That's what the state said.
Yeah.
We can't be less strict on the 900. We certainly be more lenient, I believe. So I'm not sure if we went through with the 1,200, but 900 is the square feet. 50% of the main house home's gross floor area, whichever is smaller.
Okay. And then, go ahead, sir.
I'm actually doing one of
This is his
these.
plan.
Oh, yeah. If you could just say your name, please.
Steve Bombard, I'm a resident of Charlton. I live on Ladder Hill Road. The town's wording on it, and I already read it, and it was, I think, revised after the law was passed. The law was passed last August, but 6 months from that, it became effective February 2nd, and the town's wording aligns with the state unless the ADU was attached to the dwelling, and then it can be 1,200. But if it's freestanding, it has to be 900 or less, conditioned space.
Or less. Okay. So, Tom?
So, my concern, and not just mine, Jim's concern as well, with the utilities, they're going to be shared utilities on the site. The two individual dwelling units will be either have their own septic systems each, or they'll be sharing one septic system, or sharing the components of the septic system. With that being said, and now both of the structures are going to be independently owned. They can be owned in common by one person, and they can rent it out, or it can be two separate owners on the same parcel of property. And there's different ways. There's going to be either attached units or detached units. They can be part of a master house, say a unit over an oversized garage, as long as they have the building code for egress and other parts of the code, firewalls for garage, and all of that. They have to meet building specs anyhow. What the Board of Health, what I'm particularly interested in is that if the septic system is going to be a shared system, or in the case of the well is going to be a shared well, and you're going to be two independent owners, these are not owned by the same person. They can be two separate owners.
I see, sir. I'll be right.
All right.
They can be the same person, but they also can be independent owners as well. So if there's a failure or anything that goes wrong with the system, or even including the maintenance of the system, the best way to do this would be to treat it. Title V has rules and regulations for what are called shared systems. And shared system means they're joint owners, joint responsibility for operation and maintenance. And if the system should fail, it's typically joint responsibility to repair or replace the system. We've had previous experience with this about 10 years down earlier with either zero lot line condos or duplexes with separate owners on each side. And we found that if they weren't prepared for failure, you could have two people with two individuals with different economic values or economic values. One may not be able to afford the septic system repair, and the other one can't. The system would have to be repaired no matter what. So, taking a lot of that into consideration, I said, okay, probably the best way to do this, we wouldn't go through the condo, calling it a condo, because the condo thing is very, very cumbersome. It's through the whole legal system. Might be difficult, but we also they have what they call a shared system. And definition of a shared system means they both own the system jointly. They have joint responsibility for maintenance, they have joint responsibility for repair. They have to come up with some type of a fiscal or financial mechanism to ensure that if the system does fail, they're going to have funds to fix it. Let's see. So, and there is a mechanism in place also for, in Title V for shared systems like this, where you can record them on a deed. They have to be recorded and deeded to both owners of the system. They have joint responsibility for maintenance, joint responsibility to provide financial surety of some type. The financial sureties, I spoke to an insurance company on how to handle that. You can either put up a bond, a cash bond, put up a cash account, an cash escrow account. I had suggested the way the insurance industry is going right now, they're insuring anything and everything. And the insurance agent corrected me. He says they're not insuring anything like the car insurance, the dishwasher insurance, and all that. He said it's not insurance. He says those are warranties, and it's a whole different setup. He said it's pretty cumbersome, and he says there's no guarantee that they're going to pay.
So the big concern is going to be down the road. You know, we have the initial capacity that if we're adding on an additional dwelling to that system, we got to make it compliant with that. But the real problem looks like it's going to be down the road. Should we have a failure or maintenance issue or whatever, how to police it enough to make it so somebody is holding the bag to fix it.
Right, we have to have a mechanism as an enforcement.
All right, so I understand
to
that.
order a repair, so that both parties are equally responsible, or whatever the terms of their agreement are, whether they're an association or a corporation, or whether they're a condo, or they're two separate owners, no matter how they cut it up, there has to be a mechanism.
Okay, so basically the septics are gonna have to be expanded or at least meet the criteria for both of those those dwellings.
They're gonna
right?
have to meet the needs of what the dwelling units are going to be.
Okay,
There are several out there that already have, they've got a 3-bedroom house on the property, and they've got a 4-bedroom septic system. That wasn't unusual. A lot of times, for a few $100s more, a lot of people were designing and throwing an extra bedroom worth on the plan.
yeah. So that's one thing our board has to look at is what's a good plan for that, because you're right. I know they fight over snow plowing common driveways, never mind
Plowing the
getting in deep,
driveway,
yeah.
mowing the lawn.
Mowing the lawn, so
putting the roof on the house.
I agree, we definitely have to come up with a plan as to that. The next thing is, we talk about the water, and the water flow or the water quantity. How good is a shared well if the water is, and that's what we were waiting for you to come in to talk about the water, is just like, do we have to put a number on a well? You must provide X amount of gallons per minute or whatever to be able to share that well, or if you have a well that initially made it by the skin of its teeth, are we now gonna put another house on it, storage tanks, all that? So I think our board has to just discuss that.
According to the rules that are in place right now, as far as quantity requirements, they're extremely minimal. So the well would have to be really bad for it to not sustain. I mean, what are we talking about here? One more bedroom? Is that what it's?
We're talking about a 900
Well, that's
square
it.
foot unit.
Right, that's, I was thinking that too, with one more bedroom. It's not that much of a strain, unless you've got a marginal well. One of the things,
But
one of the, well, we used to use, when I developed it for a few other towns, we used to use the 5 gallons a minute for 4 hours.
which is
Which is grossly in excess of what you
absurd,
really
right,
need.
Right.
But, so now whether it's a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom or even a 5-bedroom house, they work very well with that, as long as you've got that volume. If you don't have that volume for delivery, then I guess the next thing would be to consider a holding tank type of a setup. Or a separate well, or,
The problem with the holding tank is, if the well, that too, but if the well doesn't sustain enough water in a 24-hour period, if it doesn't recover enough to sustain those units, storage tank's not gonna help you. That's, you know what I mean? The storage tank will help you if you have a high peak demand,
yeah,
but the total number of gallons per day isn't
Right,
beyond what the well can sustain. So you can get through the peak periods with the tank, but it's not gonna help you. If anybody has a well that's that marginal and they're looking to do this, they know they got a problem already. It's not gonna be a secret.
and again, you're still gonna have to look at that as a shared well, shared responsibility, shared everything, if the well croaks.
But are these accessory buildings gonna be, is the ownership gonna change? I mean, is it?
Well, that's still, we haven't talked about that part of it yet. So I
That's
don't know.
next.
Well, if it's held by the same owner, I don't
Yeah.
see where it's.
According to the proposal from Governor Healy, they can be separate owners. So that's in order to.
Not if it's attached, Tom.
Pardon?
Not if it's attached.
Well, in general, especially the detached ones, and that's the one that,
I think we should more worry about water quality. If someone has a filtration system, then we allow them to tee off.
that's another thing to look at.
To share to another dwelling. If they're renting, then they complain to the Board of Health. They got a filtration system, they know, is it gonna feed out of the same one?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to think about.
So,
But they're
It's
gonna
only
be
one
considered,
bedroom.
they're gonna be considered independent structures. There was the old, we used to call it, a family compound, when you had 2 separate living units on one parcel of land.
So,
And you could actually carve that one out, we'll say the detached garage with a unit and all of that. You can carve that out and sell that off to your kids. Or you can use it as a rental unit.
yeah, Steve,
I thought that I didn't think, I mean, if the minimum frontage requirements are met for the single-family house, and then you build this accessory unit, I didn't think you could cut part of the property off to where the other piece is gonna be undersized. I didn't think you could do that anyway, so.
She changed the rules. She turned
Change
around.
the zoning ordinance.
She changed all the zoning stuff.
So you can now cut that, you can cut that off and create an undersized,
Yes, sir.
so.
But to meet Title V, one of the only other things that really have consideration for is the 10,000 square feet of land per bedroom. That's the other thing that we have to take into consideration. So if they're gonna have 3 in 1, they have to have either a 4-bedroom septic system or they have to have, and the other thing they have to have is a minimum of 40,000 square feet according to nitrogen sensitive loading formulas for, when you have a well and a septic system on the same property, you have to follow the nitrogen sensitive loading properties.
So, we're gonna be in, I'm just like, for today, it's kinda like, this is our first discussion on it, so I feel like we should just kind of see what's coming at us. We're worried about the concerns you just said, the water, we have to figure that out, come up with a plan, but what other topics? Because I don't wanna get into the meat and potatoes of solving anything right now, I'm just kinda trying to see like what we're up against and what we need. Jim?
I think one of the zoning ordinance and bylaws shall prohibit unreasonable restrictions. So what is that? I mean, we need to get more of a definition. So he's talking about the 10,000 extra. And this is designed for family members or keeping you on your own lot. And therefore, my problem is if they're renting it as another dwelling, is they have to have their own ingress and egress.
Yeah.
Because if someone complains, you can't be going through another house or an issue. They need to have, that definitely is an issue as the housing inspector. Tenants call me all the time complaining. So we need to make sure that that is done, and I spoke to Kurt about that. I think they're designed basically, and the intent is to keep families closer, bring families in, and I think there's a lot of them in Charlton already that are there above garages and attached to the house that now will become legal. And it's only 1 bedroom we're talking about, so it's, as you're saying, what is 1 bedroom for flow? Even in the septic, my house is designed for 3, I have 2 bedrooms. I would need to comply with Title V because I already do, I have sufficient. And my well, I just need approval from the town, from the Board of Health to connect to my well, which has plenty of flow. So
The only other
that's the
thing
issue.
on water supply, we have, because you have town water now in separate areas.
They have
You can
to,
either
they'll have to connect,
separate meter for
Yeah.
each unit.
or you
can
could
do
have it
that,
included
or
in the rent, depends
or
on your
in-
agreement.
Included, the fee is, the water fee
Yeah,
Sure.
that though wouldn't be Board of Health. That's gonna be water, sewer, or them, so we'd be out of that. So I just want us to start thinking about this, because we have other things, and I know this will drag us down, but if you guys think of anything, let me know. Sir, I know you've had your hand up, and I know that you're, it's about the ownership question or whatever, so go ahead and say what you'd like.
It is. I have an attorney, and I've been with this from day one.
Mhm.
In other words, as soon as this, my initial plan was my wife and I were gonna put our house on the market, we had it appraised, we were gonna buy a piece of land somewhere, we were gonna build a small house.
Mhm.
And we always thought about an ADU, but we didn't wanna do an attached.
Mhm.
My son-in-law approached me and last summer, he said the law has changed. So I've been fully involved with this
Mhm.
since the beginning. And I'm not an attorney, but I have one, and he told me, and he forwarded something to me, and I'll just read it to you. Under Massachusetts ADU law, if a freestanding ADU unit is built on the property, it must be sold as part of the property, not separately. It's not gonna be divided into 2. It's gonna be under 1 ownership. It can be rented, but not short-term. It can be rented long-term. So that property my lot stays at 60,000 feet forever. So whoever owns that, and eventually it'll be my daughter and my son-in-law, they'll own the house and the ADU. So for us, it's kind of like we're trying to do something that's generational. We're gonna move into the small house if it gets approved and we build it. And my daughter and my son-in-law are gonna buy into the bigger house.
So let me ask you, why are you here? You jammed up with something?
I'm like, what do you mean?
He wants,
Like, do you need permission from something?
yeah, he wants to start.
Well, I have plans
I have a
and
fully planned application.
So what's the issue with him? Because didn't you say you filed after the,
yeah,
oh,
we
before
just,
the law?
I just, sent this, I had the Title V done and passed.
Yep.
And that's a part of, they didn't do the whole, that's not my entire lot in that
Yeah.
plan. But I've been to an architect and,
But my question is, I mean, I think I've been seeing these things pop up everywhere. You're not the first one, right?
Well,
No, we don't have any legal ones yet.
this is the first, he has applied and done his due diligence, anything we've asked. And I asked him to wait to come before this board because of the shared well situation. I told you that I could not make that decision, that's a board's decision, because it's not part of our well regs that I would enforce. So that's something the board would have to, whether I'm gonna be able to approve them, or each one's gonna come before the board and be required to have the variance if they're gonna rent it. In his case, he's going to be the occupant. So I think we might have to take each case as you see fit, but I don't know if we should hold him up. He has plenty of water, he has everything in order, he has a big house in a nice area, but I couldn't approve for the shared well, only the board can, unless the board makes a decision tonight in other direction. But he's gonna be compliant with Title V, and the well is the issue, so that's why, and we've spoken, he's very knowledgeable in the situation, reads a lot about it, and he's ready to go.
Steve?
If he's gonna retain, the ownership is gonna be retained by him or his family. I don't see a problem.
If that's the case, then some of the things we just talked about with who's gonna fix the septic and all that, that becomes the easy button. It doesn't matter. Whoever owns it, it's gonna have to deal with it.
If his well isn't good enough and he adds on to it, I mean, he's gonna bear the expense to fix it. I mean, that's-
And if it's a rented unit, still the
It's still his
landlord,
problem.
it's still the landlord's
Right,
owner.
exactly.
Right.
So,
So I don't see,
all right, so Tom, with this case in particular, and I'm not saying, with this case in particular, what are your concerns then?
Well, in a case like that, I'm not too worried about it because in essence, he's gonna retain ownership of both of the structures.
So,
And he's not going to sell one off as he'd be entitled to. What we could do, what you could do in a case like this, is if he decides to sell them both off as one unit, so be it, see you later. But if he decides that he's going to take advantage of the ADU and sell it off to Mrs. Jones down the street so that she's got a place to live.
You can't do that.
he's saying you can't do it.
you can't do it. So
You can't do that. I read that today and confirmed that. I think this is not a Title V issue, this is an issue for myself, this is a well issue that now I forwarded to the board.
so my concern is, and I am concerned with the long term, if it's different owners, like because I don't know if these things could be sold or not,
You
or
can't.
whatever. But like, and do we put a deed restriction on it? This house cannot be sold separately, you
It's
know?
already in the law, though.
If it's already in the law, then we don't have to worry about it.
All they do is, before they can get a certificate of compliance, they have to file a deed restriction. There's a deed restriction in Title V for these shared systems. And all they have to do is just file it, just record. So give a copy of the blank or the template to their attorney, and they fill it out, and the attorney files it with the registry of deeds, and he turns a copy of it over to us, a recorded copy, with releases certificate of compliance. It's all set.
So in this, Tom, right? We got a 3-bedroom house with a 1,500 gallon tank.
Yep.
Right now, we're gonna add on another. Does this septic system need to be upgraded?
Yeah, there's little things that really need to be done.
In this particular case.
He's gonna end up with a 4-bedroom structure.
Mhm.
If he's got a 3-bedroom septic system, he needs to modify.
It's a 4-bedroom system.
It is.
Well, I understand that. In his case, it's a pre-existing 4-bedroom system.
He has a 4-bedroom system now.
Right.
I thought we had to bump up to a 2,000 gallon tank for that.
Well, that's another thing that comes along, and it's in there. It says when you have a multifamily, and this is considered now a multifamily, you have to have a 2-compartment tank.
Two
Or the
compartment.
4T.
Each unit has to have a 2-compartment tank.
Each unit. What was your, oh, I got the plan right here, but what, you're gonna tap into the,
We're gonna share the leach field,
share the leach field but separate tank?
separate tank in. I have a 1,500 gallon tank that's going in. I have an existing 1,500 plus a 1,000 gallon tank with a pump.
I see it. So you see what he's doing? He's got, this is an existing tank here, coming out of the house, going to the leach field, probably with gravity fed, whatever. He's gonna be over here, obviously lower, going into a 1,500 gallon tank, pumping it out into that same field.
Good. So,
You see a problem with the gallons of water usage, not a problem?
I don't think so.
Tom, do you see a problem with the increase of effluent into the leach field?
The leach field is already designed
Right.
at 4-bedroom, so there's no need to treat it as a,
And you just did a Title V, because why would we want to give someone an ADU?
we have to, the law says we have to do a Title V
And you did, and it passed.
So,
to make sure that it's working.
And technically, there's gonna be less people than were raised on that system. When I built that house, my 3 kids and my sister-in-law lived there, so there was 6 of us in the house. And when we do this, there's gonna be 5. There's gonna be my son and my daughter, my son-in-law and my daughter, their daughter, and my wife and myself.
so, that, I understand what you're saying about that, but honestly, this decision has nothing to do with
How many
you or
people?
your family.
Yeah,
or-
yeah, I understand.
This is like new
Right.
to our board and what
Yeah.
the future is gonna be, because I'd be, and no offense, but I could be saying, I'm the only one gonna be living there, and then as
Oh,
soon
I
as I get the
understand
stamp, come on,
It's
you know,
like-
not saying you're
Right.
gonna do that or I'm gonna do that, but the ability to do that would be there.
Right.
So, you know, but if Tom's good with the additional, leachate going into the field, and you think the water flow's not an issue,
Well,
I
like said,
personally.
he's gonna own the whole thing, so he knows if his well's good or not. He's lived there for 25 to 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So he knows if his well is a problem, and if he's gonna tax it more than it already is, he knows he's in for a ride.
He's in the same hook if the septic fails.
Right.
If the septic fails, he's
Yeah.
gonna have to
Yeah,
come
and
into
that, and
compliance with that
Tom
too.
said, you know, if the property stays in your hands, which it is, he says, in reality, you don't need to do a Title V, but I want you to do one. And I did one, and the guy who passed, he says, it's in great shape.
John, you have any comments?
No, I'm pretty good with everything that's been said.
I mean, if I may, his setup is ideal, it's all set to go. It shouldn't be a problem. But these are, I'm just trying to figure out how if we need to set any type of a baseline.
I agree, like,
That's my
a Title V pre-conversation, I think, is important.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you have any comments on this?
Nope.
No?
Just
Okay.
observant this time.
That's fine, just asking.
But,
So, hold on, I'm sorry,
yes,
I'm sorry.
As far as the Title V inspection is concerned,
Yep,
that's mandatory. To
okay.
make sure that the system is operating. What they do is you're gonna go from a 3-bedroom use, not necessarily the design, but 3-bedroom use to a 4-bedroom use,
Mhm.
technically. So that's considered new construction. New construction and all of that, Title V was, it says it right in there, that you must do an inspection.
So, for us, if we're gonna be individually allowing these, right, it's gonna be up to us to ask the question, was there a current Title V? If the answer is yes, check the box, we move on. If the answer is no, come back when you have a current Title V that passes.
Exactly,
Okay,
that's all.
Yeah. it's still, I mean, it's still gonna matter if the, I mean, this guy's got a 4-bedroom system, so
He's all set.
He's good to go.
He's lucky.
But the next one probably isn't gonna be, he's gonna have to,
And
they're
it'll
gonna
be
have to
under
fix the
construction.
music, so.
Yeah.
So,
I guess it's gonna be a case-by-case thing.
Well, if he does a Title V inspection and it passes, we'll say it's a 3-bedroom system, he's now allowed, he doesn't have to rip the whole system. What he's gonna do is he's just gonna modify the system by adding one more trench or one more.
Half bill, yeah,
What-
whatever.
what's the language? It's not a variance, right? We're not asking for a variance, we're just asking for approval to allow an ADU unit?
Right.
That's it.
That's all of it.
And again, I believe that, and we can hash it out later, I guess, if you want, but I believe that if you're gonna treat it and you're gonna apply it as an ADU, you have to record it on your deed as an ADU.
Okay.
Okay, that's, and the, in Title V, under Appendix 1, it's anything to do with shared systems.
Okay.
And it has to be recorded. And it's not gonna hold him up. He can go to work and all, and do all of his work,
Mhm.
but he can't get the occupancy permit until that recording is done, and we get a copy of it.
Do we want to do that and make it in a deed restriction as an ADU? Because I'm very hesitant to give anybody a deed restriction, because when it comes time to sell your property, or if you're buying a property, that deed restriction is a red flag that comes up and they say, what's wrong? What happened? The language, if it says it's an ADU unit, to me, not a big deal. Hello, there's the second unit right there. So it's not a negative, you know, it might have to be talked about, but deed restrictions are very sensitive topics, so.
Well, it sounds to me like the only reason for the deed restriction is to prevent somebody from breaking the property up,
Exactly.
right? So
So do you want to do a deed
I
restriction?
would say it makes sense.
Do you want to do a deed
Because it's gonna
restriction?
create problems.
Just a point of clarification, Tom, you said that it's required. Is this part of the law that says for an ADU like this, you have to have a deed restriction?
Well, when you read the deed restriction for it, there is the language is right on the title of the deed restriction.
Right,
It's for a shared system.
right. So isn't that part of it? Do we need to?
So we have to follow Title V and declare it as,
Right.
all the applicants are supposed to do is they're supposed to declare, first of all, what they're doing. They have to tell you it's an ADU, it's a shared system, it's a condo, it's a, I'm gonna own them both, never to be divided. They have to identify what they're going to do.
Okay. But that's part of the law and the regulations now. So why would we have to do that, just to ensure that
Well, if the law
Because it's not-
changed,
Yeah, it's not identified as one.
if the
entity.
law changed, Charlton would still have that rule, but maybe a different town may not. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If Mass General Law changed and we had nothing in place, then we go by Mass General Law. But if Charlton had that in there and the language changed down the road for whatever reason, I think it's a little, it just says, no, we intend this to be as a shared unit.
and it's already been changed, as we know.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think in the past, when someone over-designed their septic system and decided to add a bedroom that was in the house, we allowed them to do that and signed off on that it was done.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, they're gonna put an ADU, whether it's attached. Why would we need to do a deed restriction when it's basically the one bedroom? And people's biggest complaint when we do deed restrictions is when they try and go and sell it, and it's only for a filtration system, they put up big blinders and they're having difficulty, and they call us, take that off.
I know.
Because I got a filtration, and right away, that now they're gonna have 2 deed restrictions possibly, and it does deter people from looking at and carrying deed restrictions.
So we would only, which is good clarification, Jim, so we would only need a deed restriction on a detached dwelling.
Yes.
There you go. Because you can't,
That's just my-
you can't, well,
You're right.
I shouldn't say you can't split up an attached one, but it's difficult.
Right.
Because if they do, for whatever reason down the road, then we're gonna run into the original comments about sharing this and funding this and all of that. And I see that being a complete disaster,
Mhm.
so I think that, is there any more discussion on this? So, number one, I think we make a motion that we accept this ADU unit plan by DC Engineering,
7 Lauderdale Road.
Yeah, for 7 Linden Hill Road, dated 4/7/2025. As drawn, with the stipulation that a ADU deed restriction be put on the title. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, you're good to go.
I'm just confused because from what I understand, up until today, I don't know where the wording is that says that this ever can be separate. It can't be, it's on the same piece of property in the.
I agree with you.
Right.
And the deed restriction is gonna be a moot point. So, but it protects the town down the road if something does change, when you're gone and I'm gone and whoever, and they start
Right.
chopping things up.
Right, and I'm looking at this because I'm doing this to the word of the law as far as why they wanted to do this.
Mhm.
I have no interest in renting it, I don't wanna long-term rent it, I don't, this isn't a moneymaker for me. If I
Yeah.
told you what it's costing me, it's insane.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it for, either I'm gonna do this now or when I die. Either my kids are gonna get my money now, or they're gonna get it
Yeah.
in 25 years or 10 years or.
I understand the deed restrictions there to protect the town down the road. If the law
Right.
changes, and there's a deed restriction, it gives this board the ability to say, okay, no, you still have your 2 units, but we need you to do this, and get back into the, who's paying for this and who's, but that's not gonna be your concern, and, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
but in this whole process, what's gonna happen is when this building is done, my son-in-law is, family, my son-in-law and daughter, they're gonna be the owners, and we're gonna own this. They're gonna own 60, I'm gonna own 20, my wife's gonna own 20. On the deed, as far as how, that's gonna, so the deed's gonna change very shortly.
Jim?
So is this gonna affect that process?
That, I agree with you, because I know that he's pretty secure with his family, but I've seen families separate, and then all of a sudden it becomes a legal issue, and someone has lifetime tenancy, and he becomes a renter or a lifetime tenant, and there's all kinds of issues that pop up, so.
No, I know it.
I think we have to protect, like you said, you're there, but later on in life, or God forbid, your daughter decides to separate now, and he owns half of it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now you're there, you could be gone if you don't, that protects them.
Things change.
Right.
Things change.
Yeah, yeah. And I
It's happening
understand
right
that.
now in a lot of places.
Yeah. So you're good to go, though. It might not sound like good news, but you got good news. So
Yeah.
So
hopefully
it's
it's
a hurdle.
satisfying.
Until the next hurdle.
Right,
Right.
right.
Deed
Yeah.
restriction's not horrible. Like, Jim,
No,
can you
it'll
help
be
him with
easy.
that?
Andrew will notarize it, send him on his way, it's a quick thing.
So what's she gotta do? Come to the Board of Health one day next week or whenever, and
Yep,
at
and
some
she'll
point?
give you the paperwork, and she's a notary, and we make it easy for you, and then you just have to take a ride to Worcester. Or your attorney can do it for you, if you wanna pay him.
Registry of Deeds, $75, right?
But it's not. I know it sounds bad, like the chairman said, but I think in the long run, it's for the protection of the years down the line, when we're all gone.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming in and
Good
listening.
luck.
I know you've been coming in a lot, we've been talking a lot, I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
it. It's been a
yeah.
long
And it's
haul.
been a process, and he, like he said, I'm the guinea pig, because I'm the
Yeah,
first
it
one
sounds like
that's
it.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right behind you. I like it.
Exactly.
I want to do one.
Yeah, and it makes sense, it really
does.
does, you know.
And you'll keep the governor happy.
I don't know.
Create more housing, right?
It's probably the only thing that she's done that I like.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item we're going to be discussing is 59 Cranberry Meadows Shore Road. So I believe you're the landowner or the homeowner?
Yes,
Okay, and you're
You guys want
with
to look? You
we're
part of-
together, the family
okay.
owns the home.
Okay, and then you guys represent the abutter, the neighbor?
Oh, actually,
59.
we're the neighbor.
They're the
You're
ones
the
putting
neighbor.
the septic system in.
Okay, you're 59 and
We're
you,
57.
okay.
And then do we get your names just for?
Yeah, for the record, thank you, John.
Okay.
If you could state your name when you talk, because we're trying to take minutes, and Andrea
Gotcha.
doesn't, and she'll be mad at me if she has to try and sift through it, so.
My name is Kelly McGrath DiDomenico, and I live at 57 Cranberry.
Okay,
Thank you.
own it. You don't live
Yes,
there.
we live in trust.
Trust. All right. So we called everybody in. We understood, we got a phone call that, and I don't know how bad it is. I haven't seen pictures or
I
anything.
got pictures.
But we understand that 59 was putting in a new septic system, and that the installer trespassed on your property to do so,
With permission from the family, so it was stated to us,
with the permission from whose family?
that family. They told them that they were able to come down, that we gave them permission to do work on the land, which we emphatically did not.
Okay, so you did not give them permission?
We
Okay.
did not.
And then, it sounds like there may be part of the component, the pump tank or?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, this is the Martocci family, not, just for the record.
Yeah.
Martocci's.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. And so when this thing was installed, in addition to some property damage, it sounds like the tank is on your property
Correct.
by
About 4 feet.
4 feet?
Yes.
Is that right, Tom?
I don't know.
Okay, about 4 feet.
That wasn't the plan, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was not intended to put it on their property. I have the original proposed plan. It's not an as-built. This is an as-built being a drawing of what was
Chairman, if you'd
actually
like to plan
installed.
this right here.
Okay, in this particular case, the whole idea was to put the property in, it was a difficult site. It was to, because the plumbing that we were told at the time, I guess, and this really is not the Board of Health's decision. This is between the engineer and the designer and the homeowner. The plumbing right now in this dark gray area is, this is the new pump chamber that was put in. It has replaced an original cesspool. That cesspool was sitting some 5 or 6 feet or 7 feet from the water.
Mm-hmm.
It was sitting, looks like about 4 feet or so, 3 to 4 feet from the property line existing.
Okay.
It had been there for quite some time. The original plan was we had to come up with a special type of a pump to put in here,
Mm-hmm.
to remove the cesspool and put a sewage injector in there, not a grinder pump, but a conventional sewer pump.
Okay.
Now, the law says that it's all supposed to be 10 feet away from the property line,
Mm-hmm.
unless we can grant local upgrade approvals. In this particular case, it was supposed to be set on top of where the cesspool was. The plan or the idea was to pump the cesspool out, cave it in, and scour all of the sewage out,
Mm-hmm.
and then put the pump chamber in. This pump chamber then would be piped up to septic tank on this side of the building.
Tom, why are we looking at different plans? Which
Well,
plan?
I don't know which way you have. You might have the revised.
Okay.
No, I have the revised.
So
Do you have
that's,
the original?
is that the Presby?
These are present. Yeah.
Let's look at your plan, 'cause this one's old. But all, what you said so far is all on this plan, I'm good with
How
that.
did the plan be revised? When was the plan revised?
As a matter of fact, it was revised out in the field. We stopped the work. We sent the engineer back to his office because the installer was having a great deal of difficulty. That particular site, the boulders and all, were caving in, and we didn't have a nice clean, it was a very irregular site. So what we did was we stopped. The engineer went back, redesigned the system according to a discussion that we had out in the field. These are easy enough to design.
Excuse me, my name's Sean McGrath. Were you
Point-
actually on
point
the
of order,
site?
sir.
Yep.
Through the chair.
If you don't mind, just
Yeah.
go through me, but
Yeah.
I'll let him
Sorry.
speak and then
Yeah,
let me
all
know,
right.
I'll let you, so just keep it in control.
Yeah.
It's an emotional.
Tom, please.
So, what we did was, we discussed the proposal here, the engineer at that time went back
Mhm.
and redesigned the system according to what we spoke of in the field.
Okay.
Could you tell us when that happened, and was he actually there at that time to do that inspection? Because we do have cameras, and we never saw him. We never saw him at the site.
So, when you did discuss that, how did you do that, Tom? Was it a phone call, or did you come
No,
on
I
site?
went to the site.
All right,
We
Tom went
met,
to
I
the
met
site.
with the engineer
Okay.
on the
Who-
site. As a
who's
matter
the
of fact,
engineer
what
on
had
this?
happened was I pulled up, and I'm not sure who it was it you that told me to move my truck? Because I was on
Probably
your
were on my
property?
property, yeah.
Well, does that tell you that I
Multiple
was
times
there?
were
Well, that was the day.
Yeah, that was the
Hold
day
on,
after.
right here.
Sean.
We're gonna stay in control, or you're out.
Yep, he's talking to me, so I'm just answering.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
it's through the chair,
Yep.
and I'm gonna let you guys have your speak, but if you're gonna go, this meeting's gonna be ended in 2 seconds, so, all right.
So, yes, we did. I was in the field. Yes, we discussed how we were going to approach this. Oftentimes, we come across some problems,
Mhm.
not often, but once in a while, we can make what we call field changes.
Yeah,
In that particular case, we had the contractors stop. What I did was we had told the engineer to go back, redraw the system according to what we thought we could fit in there
Mhm.
to make sure. Some of that stuff is to make sure that we can actually fit the structures in there.
so, go ahead, I'm gonna let, you go ahead and speak if you'd like.
So first of all, the cesspool's draining on our property.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no stakes, they didn't have anything marked. It was just, they just showed up, they rushed it. I've never seen him on the property prior to that, before they put the tank in. I would like to know the dates, because we have cameras. And we would like to inspect our cameras to see when he exactly said he came to inspect the hole when they put the tank in 4 feet onto our property
Mhm.
with boundaries. I have survey markers up and down the property.
And then also the hole that they dug,
Mhm.
and I was concerned about this. Once the hole was dug, did you come out to inspect
Yeah.
that before the tank was installed? Okay, is that common practice, that if a hole is dug, the inspector comes out?
It is up in this area for the leach field, but not for the tank. Tanks have to fit.
Because also I mean, this was just an odd thing to me. So say the hole is this big
Mm-hmm.
onto their property. The tank is here, the hole is this big.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, they could have moved the tank on this half of the hole,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So when you came out to inspect, you didn't look to see, because the stake for the property line is literally a foot away from where this tank is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very apparent. And they have, it's my home, and we have an extra buildable lot there, so we're very, and it's tight. It's right down to the,
Yep.
for that buildable lot. It's their home, and then they have a whole buildable lot. This wasn't, they didn't have any burden that they couldn't get this done on their property.
Mm-hmm.
But they took the time to come down on our property with an inspector,
Mm-hmm.
with a construction company,
Mm-hmm.
and tore up our land and did all this.
Mhm.
And we're just like beside ourselves
Yeah,
that this was accepted. It doesn't seem right to me.
right.
It doesn't seem like, how could this be fair?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And we have been battling for the last 3 weeks
Mm-hmm.
because it's a police officer that did this. And I'm sorry, I'm emotional. It's very emotional. We were very friendly
Mm-hmm.
with this family. They betrayed
Were.
us. They betrayed us.
So,
This buildable lot is a lot of money to us.
I can imagine it is.
Yes.
It's a lot of money to anybody. So, as far as that goes, okay, I'm sorry that happened. I think it has been confirmed that the tank's on your property, the survey came out and all that. So, currently, this is unfinished business, okay?
Right.
So, is there any type of resolution to get it so you guys are happy? Is there anything that
We want the tank removed, obviously. We want all their stuff off our property.
So we
Okay.
just, we want the tank to be removed, nowhere near our property, the standard of the letter of the law is followed. You know, we're not trying to do any harm to them as they did to us, we don't
Yeah.
wanna do the same back. We just wanna restore our property.
So,
Anything that is theirs, we want off and we want the tank moved away from our property.
Right.
So if we sold our buildable lot, we could.
right,
We wouldn't have that tank there.
so are you willing to allow the contractor to come back in, get the tank off of your property onto this property where it belongs and restore?
Not that construction company.
We
because
were told that
lost faith.
contractor was,
He lost
he pulled the
his,
license, you told us.
No, that's not accurate.
That's not accurate.
Jim, you did tell me that. You called me and said that Stevens Construction, that you pulled his license.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Jim.
what I said to you was that he did not have a valid installer's license at the time of the install.
That's not what
correct.
you said to me, Jim. And I'm
And
not a
we did
liar.
not-
I'm a
and we
social
did-
worker by heart.
We did, he didn't have a license. We did not reissue him a license until I spoke to the chairman and we gave it back to him, not for that job. But he did not have a valid license when he put that in. That, he needs an installer's license from this department with a certificate of insurance, which he did not have. He had it when he originally applied, but he did not have a valid permit from our office at the time of the install. That's what I told you. So
Do
he
you
didn't
mind if I
have it.
speak? He actually used the words, I called him. He went down and inspected. I said, you need to go see what happened here because it's beyond belief until you go down to actually see that someone took heavy equipment, tore a wall down, took out trees, put stones so the heavy equipment could get down on our land instead of on their own land. Remember, they have property. And did this. And so he went. I said, you please, you gotta go down and look at this. When he called me back, he said, you're right, the tank is on your land and we have revoked Stevens Construction's license. That is exactly what he said.
Well, I'm not gonna get into he said,
I
she
know,
said,
but-
I was not there. But the fact is that Stevens Construction does have a valid license. At the time when this was done, he did not, but it wasn't because it was suspended or revoked. It had gone past January 1st, he did not come in. Sir, go ahead.
So that's on your responsibility, you didn't check his license when he pulled the permit?
We have,
I'm just asking, right?
I mean,
he
you
came
can
to get
point-
the permit, and
you
you
can
guys-
point a finger if you want,
So
and
who do
that's
we go
fine.
after for the insurance?
Well, there's probably a slew of people.
Oh, I know there's a.
I don't
So-
really wanna get into that. I really wanna
We,
find a resolution.
I would like to find a resolution
I don't
for
wanna
it.
use Stevens Construction.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the pictures, you'll know why I have no faith or no trust. This gentleman came on our property, and our septic is there too. We don't know if there's any damage to our septic as well. That was the reason why we said no. We love this family.
Mm-hmm.
They were like our family. This has been like a difficult circumstance for us, and they know it. We want it restored. The other stuff does not matter. That tank needs to be off our property. Anything of theirs needs to be off our property. We're gonna put a fence going right across. That's what we're gonna do now. We really don't have a choice. But to have Stevens come back out, if this happened to your property, would you have Stevens come out and correct the problem?
I think if it happened to my property, I would be looking for resolution.
Yeah.
Stevens is already involved in this, and I believe that they're probably the right ones to come out and resolve it. There's money tied up, the whole thing, to figure out how much this company did and the next company did, and who did that and who did that.
So
I think it could,
Could you guys go out and supervise that along with us to make sure that's done right? And we don't want them on our property. We want them to come down through their property. They can tear apart their whole extra lot now and do that. We are not allowing them to come on our property again.
so, I haven't been there.
It's
My-
bad.
My understanding is the only access to do the work on this was to come down through here where the
No,
damage
that is not true. They could have got a crane and they could have done it. They told us that. Jason told us, the reason why we want to come down on your property is it's going to be too expensive to get the crane. So they did this when we weren't there.
The crane may have been in discussion to be able to set the tank itself, but cranes don't dig holes. There's excavation work and landscaping work and things that are not done with cranes, and I don't see that being a hand deal. If you wanna not go for a resolution and
I do want a
sue whoever you're
resolution.
gonna do,
No, we want the resolution.
then I'm
to
not
get
gonna
the
be
tank
able to help you.
removed.
But if you wanna get the tank off of your property and get your yard buttoned up and get it as nice as you can, or they say they're gonna, and all that, I think you ought to let them come on your property and finish what they started. Now, how they got there to the beginning, I wasn't involved in any of that conversation. I can't see them just blazing on the property without permission. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
Have
It
you looked at
definitely
the
did.
pictures?
I have not seen the
Definitely
pictures.
happened.
I'm asking you to look at them,
But
of
the
what they
pictures-
did to the property. This is what they did. They
But-
tore down a wall.
I understand
They
that.
installed stones,
I
loads
understand
of
that.
them.
And I also was told that there was permission. You're saying there's not?
There's no permission.
Where's the written permission? Who gave permission?
I don't know. That's what I'm
There was
saying.
never any permission.
Can I
Exactly.
speak, please? So, we do have a lawyer.
That's
And I
fine.
did speak to the lawyer about actual permission.
Mhm.
In the crazy world of permission,
Yes.
I'm the only one that can give permission. I'm the
Okay.
executor of the trust.
Mhm.
They are well aware of that, 'cause they are more than, they were like family to us, so
Mm-hmm.
they knew that. They definitely knew it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going?
We were talking about permission, and we're talking about
Yes, oh,
resolution.
so my lawyer said that even if I gave permission,
Mhm.
they would have to be in agreement.
Okay.
They would have to be assessments done.
I understand
Someone
all
would
that.
have to come down, so you can't give a verbal agreement that is not binding by the letter of the law.
Listen, hear
I'm
me
not
out.
trying, I'm not
Hear
trying
me
to
out.
be, I know, go ahead.
What you're saying, that ship has sailed, okay? No, there was no written agreement. I believe that, because it would be right here in front of us. We're not even the judge. We're the Board of Health that's trying to resolve an issue. If you're gonna let them on your property to repair it and fix it, let us know. We'll try and get them out there and make your life as easy as we can, as fast as we can. If you're not gonna give them permission, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know
It's
how else
just,
to help you.
it's scary to us, because I'm afraid to go to the house and stay there by myself at this point, because this happened when we weren't there. So to have this company come back on the property, how do I know what they're gonna do? They are, you say they're not gonna come ramrodding in, but they did it, and a police officer was involved. It's scary to us.
And a
And
real
we're-
estate agent on top of it, so he
We're
knows.
reaching
But
out
what
to
does
you
that
for
have to
help.
do with any of this? What career people do? That has nothing to do with the conversation.
That doesn't have anything to do with it.
Him being a
Anyway,
police
what
officer?
what
And a
I'm
real
saying
estate
is-
agent, so he knows the law, yeah.
That absolutely, to
He
me,
tr-
has nothing to
He
do with it.
trespassed on the property and destruction. That
Okay.
doesn't have to do with this conversation, but there's emotions
Right.
involved.
And I understand that, and I hate it when neighbors get involved, okay? But from my point of view, right or wrong, what I was told was there was permission, verbal permission.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna disagree with it. I wasn't there. I'm just saying, from what
We
I
have
was
no
told,
proof of
there
that.
was permission.
Who would
You're
ever get
saying there
permission for
wasn't.
that?
That's not Board of Health, that's court.
Right, I know, we know.
But if you want to get a resolution to this, let's put all of that behind you if you can, and let's go for a resolution to get
I
this.
am, but how about if we get another contractor? Because this is what they did
Just to
to
remove
us.
the tank, they're not fixing anything. We're bringing in our own contractors to fix all the damage.
just want the
Everything
tank
needs to be
removed.
off
What
the
if-
property.
what if we
They got
have another
walls, they got
company come in
stones, they got everything.
to
Everything's
move
gonna be
that
off
tank?
our
Okay.
property.
All right, let me talk to them now and see if we can,
All right.
and I'd like to go point of order, so
All
you're
right,
not
we will.
going
Okay,
through
we
me,
will. We'll be
ricochet
quiet.
off me. Okay, who should I ask questions to? So,
Jason Martocci.
hi Jason. So, in terms of getting resolution here, it sounds like they will give permission to use that property, but they don't want to use the Stevens Construction Company. Is that somewhat doable, or is that?
$30,000 tied up into him doing basically the entire job. That was the final money.
Right,
You know, he's not going to split it up with, let's say,
the next contract.
Slims or somebody to come out and do the same thing.
Mhm.
It's, you know, they price things differently.
Right. So it's basically, if they're looking for resolution, it's Stevens Construction, let them finish what they started, or not.
That's all I can offer.
How can that be fair? I just want to say, this is a dream property for us. This is the Lake House property, it's a dream property. we don't have access to it right now, we have a hole there, we're not able to use it. We didn't do any of this stuff. They did it to us. They could have done it on their own property, and they did not. They thought they could get away with this, and the thought that they gave us after was, we're sorry. So why do we have to pay for this? It's not my problem that it's costing you all this money. If you didn't do this and you did the right thing, you wouldn't have this problem. That's not my problem.
I understand that, and if I were you, and this happened to me, and I didn't give permission, and I just saw this and it happened, I would not be happy about that either. And so I'm not taking sides here.
I know you're not.
I'm trying to find resolution. The resolution is let the company finish what they started.
Shouldn't they be responsible to have another company come in?
If you want to go down that road, then it's not up to us to determine that. The company that
But
did
if you
this,
can determine to have the same one, why couldn't you determine to have a different company come?
because we're not financially obligated to any of this.
Right.
Alls I can tell you is Stevens Construction has a valid license now.
And they didn't have they didn't even have a license then, and you want us to use this company that didn't have a license, that
Didn't follow
destroyed
the
our
rules.
property, didn't follow the rules.
Listen,
Please,
I'm not
they
gonna
can't
sit here
follow.
and let you start bashing it, because I feel that the circumstances are being twisted right now. So, I'm just not gonna tolerate it, okay? This following the rules and all that, I'm not buying the story. I feel like somehow, some way, there was a discussion to allow them to come down there. If there was, or if there wasn't, I wasn't there. Alls I'm saying is, if you would like resolution, the Matucci's are willing to finish what they started and come out that way. If you're not willing to do that, I cannot help you at this table.
So you can't help it, but you can't approve it either.
I can't approve what?
You can't prove that that's done right. You can't sign off on it then,
I don't
can
know
you?
how you could do this.
No, we can't sign off on this
You
right
can't
now.
sign off on it.
That's right.
So we're gonna be going to court to fight over that too then. I mean, they brought it on themselves. I'm sorry, we love this family.
Yeah.
Do
We did not
anything.
give them
They
permission.
did
They
this
know
to
we
us,
did not
and
give
they
them
know
permission.
it. It's-
I'm sorry. There was no permission.
Point of order.
The two of you weren't there, and I had a discussion with your oldest brother. That's where the handshake agreement came
Jason,
from.
I had many conversations with
And-
you.
My brother got in a fight with you and stormed off. I have it on the
And
camera.
he came right back and he goes, well, I
No.
was thinking about having a driveway put in where the wall was taken down. I said, absolutely no problem, whatever's gonna make this thing easier for all of us here. It was gonna be reseeded, hydro-seeded, whatever we were gonna do, it was gonna be put back better than it was, period.
Just so you guys know, it's your land, it's sensitive. I understand that. I don't live there,
Yeah.
okay? And I understand it's your land, it's sensitive, and you live there, and I understand that. But as a board, we deal with tight spaces like this and neighbors and all that. And the only advice I can give anybody, and it's advice, is you just try to get along the best you can. Some can, some can't. And the ones that can't, they're firing up hollies at 1 in the morning and putting roosters on and property
They're
lines.
never gonna do
I'm
that.
just saying how it
Yeah,
goes.
they're not that way.
You know, and it's too
We
bad.
haven't done any of that,
I
even
know you
after
have.
they did this to us.
I know,
We
but-
haven't caused any problems. We
If-
just want the problem corrected, and I'm afraid of that company
We
coming
don't
on our
trust
property.
If
This
you're,
is what they did to us.
if you're afraid of that company coming in and repairing it, there's nothing more this board can do for you. If you're willing for resolution and hoping they do a very good job, and if they don't do a good job, it's still a civil matter, but it's probably gonna be way better than what it is now. The tank will be definitely off the property. I think there was a question about the property line. I think that's been resolved. So I think some of the stuff that may have happened here is better.
The property line, we already did that back in
We had it
September
surveyed.
in '24. That wasn't even an issue. That was never an issue.
Well-
It's just we want the tank removed. And I know that all 4 of you would not allow a company back on your property.
I would. You don't know how I am. I would.
So, just so how we found out about this was all this work was going on.
On camera.
I'm in Florida working on my father's house in Florida, and my camera's going off. A day later, and I finally look and I see a dump truck backed on my property with the wall down and an excavator loading that. That's how I found out. No call from them.
And I-
Nothing.
And I do want to tell you, I was there
And what
2
did he say to
weeks.
me when he finally called me back? When his brother Tom called me, because he wouldn't call me back.
They wouldn't answer.
They wouldn't answer. All he kept saying is sorry, sorry, sorry,
But
sorry. I mean,
We
Sir, I
know
get
we knew
it,
what
but
we
doesn't
you
have to
keep
do
backing
with
up the
I
car.
know.
Yeah.
And there's a third person, your family member that supposedly there was a discussion with that's not here. I don't know any of that. I just want to try and resolve it for you. If we can resolve it, they're willing to let the contractor go in probably
But they
immediately.
shouldn't be willing to do anything.
I can't help you.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
If you change your
I'm
mind,
afraid of that.
if you
I'm
change your
just-
mind and you want to come back to the board, please, or whatnot. But if
We
you
do
can.
not want anyone on the property right now, so no
Okay.
work is gonna be done. Can we say that the work will stay? If you guys are not willing, you guys did this to us, Jason, we want another company to come in to correct it.
I can't pay.
You should be willing. I
My
just
well
thought
is
about that in the
financially
beginning.
$30,000 into it, I'm not paying.
That's not our fault, Jason.
Jim.
Remember, there's another family involved here, and this is her primary residence, and she doesn't have a septic system. Now, in order for them to rectify the situation, they have to go on the property. But that's not our issue. But I think Mr. Stevens, when he applied for this, he had a valid installer's license. As you know, on January 1st, they expire. So when I told him he didn't have a valid license, it was true. He started this, I have no knowledge of it until we review it, and Tom, and I just got a phone call about it. But I think you should both find it in your heart to say, let's do the right thing for everybody. Let them try and make it right for you. Fix that so they can live also. This woman is also petrified to stay in her own house and is shook up. I think fighting does no good. Fighting
We
does no
haven't
good.
done any fighting
And I
like
think
that.
argument does no good. I think give them a chance to let Mr. Stevens, who's a very nice man, you don't even know him. He's not, and you say you're a friend. He's a nice guy. He's been
What
doing
would
this
he do?
job.
How would you feel
But
if this was done to
like
your
Matt
property
said, I'm
without
not
your
there.
permission?
But the only way to rectify it is to
wanna
go
look
on your property to get the pump chamber out because it's over the line. So they have to be physically on your property. So you're gonna have to make some kind of acceptance of allowing them under supervision to make sure that they properly remove it, fix your property to back the way you want it, and then move forward. But if there's no resolution, as the chairman said, how are we gonna help you? Because we only issue permits and they submit plans, but we don't go out and babysit the job. I mean, when I found out about it, I went out immediately.
You did, and I appreciate
And I
that.
looked and I called you, yes, they are on your property, according to the line that I could see. And at the time, he did not possess a valid license, but when he applied for this, he was in good standings when he applied and it was reviewed. But the mistakes are made out there, people are human, and I think we all need to come to some kind of resolution. So the board, and the chairman said, they can fix it. To get someone else is a manifest injustice to them. They can't afford another $30,000, so you have to take that into account. We still have to live next to them.
We do have to live next to them. First of all, we don't know if our septic is ruined. So are they gonna come and they gonna check our septic to see if any of that heavy equipment?
I'll
ruined our
review your septic plan and location and see where the lines are, and certainly sit down with Tom and look at it, but I have not looked at where I know you're saying that there's another lot there and there's a space, but if your septic's there, you wouldn't be able to build there, you know? But it is your property, and you're right, someone was on it, but I think if you can find somewhere in your heart to let them finish it and come to good standings, I think you need to move on for this, because if we both fight, the only one that's gonna make money on this is your attorneys, and they're gonna say that you have to allow at some point them on that property, you're gonna have to agree, because they have to remove it.
But we can also
We
say
could
to
bring my own
them,
contractor in.
we could bring another contractor.
Yeah, but
in
now
to do
you're
it.
moving equipment from someone else's, and that's between two
And
parties.
then you'd be trespassing on their side because I feel like the tank is on the line, right? It's
We
not
just
it's
take the
4
tank and
feet
put it
on our
on in the
property.
driveway.
4 feet, 100%
On
on
our
us.
property,
We can
yes.
take it out and we don't even have to go on their land. That's
Okay.
how much it's there.
I thought it was infringing on your, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
but I thought it was infringing on your property, not.
Tom, how much is that
completely.
pump, $5,000?
Installed, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just trying to,
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, according to this plan, that tank is not on their property. It's within the setback, but I'm allowed to.
Field adjust.
To yield on that. We have, as you can see here, the iron pin there's an iron pin here, and there's an iron pin here. And they're labeled as found. That means that they identified them, and they shot them, and it's part of the drawing. Those are accurate. Okay? This company is a surveyor as well. law says that if I'm within 10 feet of the property line, I have to make sure that the line is surveyed, which it is. So if that tank is 4 feet, now there's a discrepancy of 4 feet. From what I understand also, somebody went in and pulled one of the pins, or pulled a stake, and they pulled it out of the ground and to dispute the property line. That's not right, so they pulled it out, I was told. I got to admit that when I walked down, I wasn't sure myself where the property line was. When I'm there doing inspections and stuff, I guess I must have been here. This is a sidewalk, and I probably was on their property. I got quickly told to remove myself from the property, trespassing. Now, as far as trying to go in and take care of things, some of the justification is, first of all, where this shows as a tank, the pump chamber, this is actually a pump. And what it's doing is it's taking all the sewage from the house, and it's a tight tank. And what it's doing is once that tank gets to the trip point, it shoots the sewerage up to here, to the septic tank. And then the septic tank separates the solids from the liquids, and then the liquids go into the leach field. The system is on their property. This is, according to the drawings, is on their property. In order to access it, yes, they may have gone over the property line, which obviously they did. It's not that it's not our responsibility to make sure that there's a trespass or no trespass. The indication was, we were told that it's already worked out, they've already approved, Willie's gonna fix it all up after. It's not uncommon for that to happen. We do that a lot of the times. We have to go over somebody's property and we restore the property, or we don't. Again, I'm only an eyewitness. That's all I do, is eyewitness for the town. We don't go out and shoot anything, we don't confirm, we don't do anything like that. The only thing we do is witness. The engineers are the ones that take all the responsibility, the engineers and the installer. In this particular case, this falls into potential civil matter. It's not a Board of Health matter.
It is not.
Can I say something, Mr. Chairman? Okay, I
I'm
didn't
trying
know if you were
to,
done.
I'm trying to
but
get,
you're
I'm not
close.
done.
Okay.
This, again, the whole intent for this was to get a conventional septic system in place, or get an acceptable septic system in place. The reason why we had to do a revision was because he was coming across boulders that were half the size of the table. And what was happening, when they start to move around or get moved around, it changes the shape and the requirements of the boulder. So what we wanted to do was, instead of, he originally had called for a trench system. And we said, okay, the trench system's not gonna work because they can't dig clean trenches. So we're gonna go with this Presby system, which is one of the newer systems that are out there. What we did was we stopped construction. They ran back to the office. It only takes a day or so for them to redesign the system. And once they redesigned it, I reviewed the plan and said, okay, that meets what we need to do. There's enough septic capacity. It's something that we can address, we can deal with. We don't have to deal with Conservation Commission. What this did was, we used basically the same area, but we put a different type of system in it. By taking that cesspool out of here, which is nothing more than a hole in the ground, where all of your sanitary waste from the toilets, and your shower, and your dishwashers, and everything else gets dumped into the ground with no treatment, and we're 10 feet from the water, from the lake. Okay? What we did was we figured, okay, we've got a special pump to go in there so that we could shoot the solids and the liquids up to a septic tank on the other side of the property, away from your property. So there is no sewage on that side of the property,
Why didn't they put the tank on their side of the property?
because we couldn't get to it with the plumbing in the basement. That's what we were told. So the easiest thing to do was take all the plumbing that was in the
Well, easy
house.
for them, not for us.
Let's point of order, Tom.
Okay, the plumbing was already done. This was already pre-plumbed out to a cesspool that was already existing. We took the cesspool out, dropped the tank in, and all we did was connect the pipe from the house to the tank.
Right.
That was it. I'm not done. Then what we did was we dug a trench to put a 4-inch pipe and come around this way and up to the septic tank at the top of the hill, so we could gravity feed it, do the septic tank thing of allowing separation, solids and liquids, biodegradation, blah, 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 and then the gray water goes out into the leach field. The leach field fit very nicely in here. It stayed within the parameters of offset from the lake. It, again, we even had a discussion of, it was a question of a safety thing and cost, but more, I have a big concern about using a crane and a 10,000-pound septic tank or a tank and picking it up and feeding it over a house. I did it once, and it was the scariest thing that I ever saw. These tanks, you know, and the crane is okay when it's like this, but when you start reaching out over a house, all of a sudden they become unstable.
So-
Very easy for them to collapse or drop the tank. Now you've destroyed a house, you've destroyed a piece of equipment. So, again, everything was done on the up and up. I guess the shortcoming was the question of trespass.
Sir, you want to say something?
Yeah, so how was the cesspool taken care of? Was that inspected? Were you there to inspect that when they dug that up, cleaned it all up? Because that was on our property too, so I would like to know.
According to their drawing, no, it wasn't. You have a dispute?
I'm not disputing anything, this
You have a
property
dispute
lines.
between
This property
two
lines.
surveyors.
So can I
Mr.
ask,
Chairman, I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Can I just finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
When was their survey done? Because they had no stakes up.
I have no idea.
They had no
It
stakes
may
up.
say it in the plan, I have no idea
It
about
does.
that.
when was that?
It's on the.
We're not gonna go through that right now on the
Yeah,
survey.
All right.
all right. That was
There's
just
two-
my,
there's-
so
there's
ours are
iron
clearly
pins.
marked.
Iron pins are not something that the surveyor puts in willy-nilly just because.
Right.
Those were put in a long time ago.
So, just to answer your question, Tom, typically when they decommission a cesspool, is it pumped and caved in?
So,
Pumped and caved in?
Is that inspected?
Not
that-
typically, Tom.
doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be, that's all, I'm just
All I
asking.
do is I get a certificate from the pumper that it was pumped, and then the next thing that they do is they actually go in to break up the biomat. I tell them they go in, take an excavator or a backhoe or whatever, and they have to go in and turn the soil over. Biomat that forms is an actual biological seal. It seals off the soil and all the pores in the soil. If we were to just leave that in place and it rained,
Float the tank.
the rain would go in there, the tank might float, but the other thing that happens, I've seen it happen where all of a sudden the tank, where the cesspool is, holds water, it becomes a mud pit, and people have stepped on it, it's almost like quicksand. It just sucks the people in. So what we end up having to do is go in, when we abandon a cesspool, it's pump it out, take the sewerage out, and then we take and turn the soil over to break the biomat. That's it.
There's no
Nothing.
soil testing at that point?
No.
No?
I'm gonna, last comment, and then I'm gonna button this up, but go ahead.
Okay, so the whole reason why they came down on our land was because of cost in the crane, correct?
Not really.
All right,
I mean,
so,
you have, from the road here, as you can see here, there's a garage, there's a garage and a building blocking the way. It's a 3-to-1 slope like this coming down this side. We would have to take the garage down in order to get there. to do the excavating that we needed to get to install the septic system and the tanks and everything else that you're talking about. It made more sense to do, and the question was, they have so many, because lake property, oftentimes some of the plumbing and stuff that goes on, it's a ramshackle building. What we have is, it's an add-on here, it's an add-on there. They took a closet and opened it up a little bit more and they made a bedroom. And they decided, well, they got 2 bedrooms over here, we're gonna put a toilet in here. We're gonna do the kitchen over here. We're redoing the plumbing. I went in and I tried to see if I could follow where the plumbing was, so to make it easier to reroute the plumbing, do whatever. I guess there were a couple of hidden spaces that I don't know about, and I was told that it wasn't accessible. So we had to stick with the original building sewer coming out, and the building sewer was over in this corner of the structure. Building sewer came out right here, right where it shows on the plan, and that was it. So we were kind of.
Can I just finish my comment? I know that you're talking about that, and I did ask you a question, but I just wanted to finish what I was saying.
Go ahead.
So with that being said, you came and did this, and you said it was pretty common that you go down other people's properties, neighbors' properties, because it's close.
I don't.
Well, you said that was
It's not
pretty
my
common.
job,
It is
it's not my
common.
decision.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But you only ask one neighbor, you take the word of one person, you don't go and ask the other person, the construction.
I'll
just
give you an
curious.
example, okay, and it's unrelated, but I'll give you an example. I cut trees for a living.
Okay.
So many times, tree work has to be in sync with the neighbor.
Right.
If the neighbor says no, you can't do the job, period, okay? It's common.
Should someone have come and asked us? I saw
You're
her
backing up the cart, because
know, but I'm
we're
just
being
saying.
told that somebody did ask, but maybe asked the wrong person, maybe it was the wrong neighbor, I don't know, I wasn't
I
there.
saw them 2 weeks before, she told me all construction
Well,
had stopped.
we were told that there was permission. I don't know, I wasn't there.
No.
So, listen, this is how I'd like to end this, okay? You think it through and do what you need to do and whatever, but there's a cease and desist on this project through our office right now, Jim, is that correct? Through you, okay?
Right.
If you're looking for resolution and you allow them to come in, they know to be on tippy toes best behavior. I think they'll do a very good job for you. I'm not gonna say they can do a good job for you.
They did come back after the cease and desist was there.
I don't know anything about that either. But if you're willing to let them finish it, maybe you can get what you want, which is your land restored back to the way it was, if not better, without having a cesspool there. If you decide to do that, call the office. They will be in touch with the people. If you're not willing to do that, there's nothing more that we can do for you or for them. So,
Where's that tank going next?
When it gets moved.
when the tank gets moved, Tom, is it going to be
Is it gonna
whatever?
be 10 feet from the property line?
No. It
It's
would-
not possible.
It's not possible.
The only way we could do that is tear the house down.
Or
So,
deck? Is
but it
deck
would-
there, right?
It would,
Again, we gotta tear the house down, we have to rip up the plumbing.
but it would
and we
be
have to take the
on,
deck down.
it would be on their property, okay? And it's not leaching onto your side, it's tight. So it's a sealed tank. So 10 feet, 2 feet, and I don't even want to say it, but a lot of these offsets are to prevent the tank being installed on the neighbor's land. So they give a 10-foot offset, so if somebody messes up by 5 feet, it's still 5 feet on your side. That ship has sailed, okay? So if he says to me, this tank is gonna be 6 inches from the property line, and comes before this board, or he does a field adjustment, we're gonna be good with it, because we know where it is.
We
But
would be good with that.
it
as
will
well.
be off of your property.
And that's what we
Yeah.
want, everything just off of our property.
Listen, this is terrible, the communication, I understand stressful, neighbors fighting, I know nobody was looking for this.
No, definitely
But it happened,
not. We love this
and
family.
maybe we can get over the other side of it and just keep on
Yeah.
going, and you know,
If we can find another company, we can. If we can't, then we're gonna have to take a different avenue, because I just can't have them back, everything they did.
well,
They came back after the cease and desist, I had to call them.
I'm gonna be honest with you. This board is looking for a phone call, probably from you, that
Okay.
says work can continue. Whether it's company XYZ, as long as they're a licensed installer in this town, I could care less. Whether it's the Stevens, company A, B, C, it doesn't matter. If you guys can work that out, great, and if you can't, great, but nothing's gonna happen until you say they can go on the property. Do you agree, John?
Yeah, I just, there's one other thing. I don't know if it's part of the contract currently with Stevens Construction. You talked about restoring the property after the truck came in and the gravel was put down and so forth, and that was on your property. Is that gonna be, was that part of the plan to restore
We
that?
never had any plan.
We had no plan with the.
Okay, but is
We
that?
don't know what a plan, what
We-
they're.
they were just
he
gonna do
explained
all
to
this, they were
me
gonna come home
when I
and see
called in.
this.
Oh, stop.
Go ahead.
Yes, it was,
Okay,
to put back better than was found.
yeah. So that's still the plan?
We were never informed of the plan.
Okay.
Like I told you, I called in Florida, I didn't even know this, no one knew this was
We're
going on.
not gonna agree on this.
Steve?
Yeah, yeah.
Listen, there's no way that these people went on your land without some kind of a verbal agreement.
From somebody.
From somebody,
I'm
okay?
telling you, they
Whether
did.
it was
Yeah.
an
That's
uncle of
the
yours that doesn't have any
this is why
skin in
we're
the
so
game,
upset.
or
This is
whatever,
why,
okay?
and I'm not
But
even
this-
joking,
yeah.
this is
These
why we
guys
are
are in
so
this
upset.
business.
You don't
I'm a
know,
lung
our
driller.
neighbors
I
didn't call us
know,
from
I
the
work-
state
I'm a
court.
laborer
It was-
for a septic
it was
guy,
okay.
so I know.
We
You know what
never
it takes to
gave
get these drill
permission.
rigs
No one ever
on
did.
these lake
That's
properties?
why.
And a lot of times, the neighbors have to cooperate, okay? Sometimes the
Why would we
place
be
has to
so
get
upset
some...
if we agreed, what's the reasons for us to be mad?
This
There's
guy's...
none, we love this family.
Well,
This
I
guy's
took them
been
for
working
boat
in
rides
this town.
every
This
Sunday.
guy's been working
I
in
don't
this
even
town.
know this guy, he's never talked to
He's
us.
been, Stevens has been working in this
I know.
town forever,
I know
okay?
he is, I have
And
friends that
The
know him.
word of
There's
this
no
family never
way
approached
that he
us.
would go on that property
did.
without, well, whatever. okay?
Listen,
I'm just saying.
You're never gonna make me believe it, okay?
I believe,
Well,
That's
if you're
the
a
sad
contractor
thing.
and you're well drilled, don't you have contracts? You're saying you can.
But when
go
a
on?
neighbor
I'm just
says,
saying.
yes, you can go through my yard, I have
Jason told
never gotten it
Thank
right.
you
Jason
guys,
must
I
have just said it. I'm
appreciate it. We're
sorry.
never gonna.
But I'm
never-
just telling
That's
you,
the unbelievable thing, and you
That's
don't
fine,
know
I'm
me.
sorry.
But I am the most honest
why we're
person you've
upset.
ever met, and
I'm
this
not
really
saying
happened
that
to
you
us.
gave them permission, but
No
somebody
one
over
did.
there gave
My
them
brother lives
permission.
in Maine, he never gave them permission.
listen, regardless of the permission, that's the
I'm just
part,
being honest
that's the part that's
I'm
not.
being
I know you got
We
your
We
toes
know,
stepped
I,
on.
and they know,
But I don't-
she's doing this to me and she knows it.
If-
And we love them and did everything for them.
Well, you might let them finish it then.
I've never had that.
I know, I'm just telling you, that's.
And there's
we're
always
not-
destruction, there's
Yeah.
always problems, there's a mess, and the contractor says, listen, we'll take care of it, we'll put it down, son, we'll put it back, whatever you want. I have never experienced this kind of a problem, okay? So I don't know what to say.
No, I know, I'm just telling you.
I just,
The only way you can go on the property next door.
I'm gonna reel this back in.
You can't cause someone else to manifest injustice.
So, listen, we've had our discussion, we've kicked the can. You all have been very quiet. Thank you for that or not, but before we wrap it up, is there anything anybody would like to say to this matter, or you heard where we are? We've done everything we can to try and resolve that.
No, it's the elderly people that are being
victimized.
Just, we went through 4 ownerships, 5 ownerships of other properties, just now we're getting
It would be
issues.
nice to have the actual person that was involved in the conversation.
It's terrible. Maybe they'll come
I'm
around.
just being honest with you. I don't-
I'm so
I
sick of
worked
hearing
in
lies.
Did he do
I'm so
anything
over
unclear?
this.
Did he
I
disrespect
don't
you?
lie.
Did he-
The people that have to sit there and say that they're honest and don't lie are the ones that
We never
lie.
even got a call and say this was going on.
I'm just saying.
Because he was under the impression that there was
Even if I
I know. We've got to
say
get
this is,
going.
someone gave you permission.
Can I take a 5-minute recess?
It's coming up.
I could use some more water.
It's 7:40. We're going to resume the Board of Health meeting after our recess. Our next line item that we'd like to discuss is, we'll go into, we're going to skip right to department head reports. We have Flint Road landfills, nothing to report. PFAS, nothing to report. So we're just going to move on to department head reports.
Chairman, I'll try and keep it brief. I think that tonight there was They had things about the tick and Lyme disease over at the library. The extension of the Board of Health. They have a doctor from UMass over there, so if people, we're gonna post it on our website, if people didn't make it. It's important information, and I'd like to have that posted if you don't mind after.
Yeah, I definitely say post it. You know, the ticks are tough with me. I lost a stepmother and a dog over ticks in the last year. And I'm a woods guy. I'm a tree guy. I'm in the woods, but I know I get out of the woods. I do a tick check.
Yeah.
I look and I'm with my clients. Hey, let's do a tick check. It's a bonding experience as we're pulling ticks off of each other.
More fun at home.
But we're getting them. We're getting the ticks. They're there. And ticks to me, I just don't remember ticks being so deadly. Like,
They're terrible.
and they're terrible. Like, but not only to get a tick, but what they're doing and how Lyme and all the other things affect people, it's no joke. So I'm glad that we have a doctor over there giving a seminar. If any information that is out there, if people have questions, they can ask the Board of Health, point them in the right direction. I know you will.
Andrew's over there taking good notes, plus it's recorded. I think it's another part of the Board of Health that we do public health and safety, and
Yeah.
part of that is tracking those cases. So.
Will the video be out there? You said it's
It'll be on
Drew?
YouTube, TV channel, TV Charlton, Mass, on YouTube. Yep, I'll have it up
Perfect.
there in a week.
great. Thank you.
Steve, what were you saying?
I've been bit twice in the last week.
The thing about
Once
tick
and the
bites,
day take the second time.
Yeah.
they'll clear up, but it actually doesn't clear up. What it does is it hides itself and it manifests back into other diseases down the road,
Yeah, it's bad.
including rheumatoid arthritis.
Jim.
Continue on briefly. NEC, the LNG plant, we're having a lot of issues. DEP has stepped in to try and control that. There's going to be a major noise study. We did one this morning. Mr. Scanlon, who's complaining, even now more and more neighbors, they changed it. And the tone has changed, but DEP stepped up. By the end of the month, there will be affirmative action against NEC for the noise violations because they made an agreement because basically they didn't have to go through much permitting, but they did agree to keep the noise not affecting neighbors, but it adversely is affecting them. So they will be doing another sound survey on that.
And it's not operational yet, is it?
They're operating, yes.
They are operating. Okay.
So, as far as that plant goes, right?
Mhm.
And I know the answer is yes, but it might be yes, kinda. Does our Board of Health have any jurisdiction right now, or is that all in the hands of DEP?
Andrew and I met with the DEP regarding them because they went to the siting board and made an agreement directly with DEP. We have authority, yes, but in a way we don't, because we were asked by Mary Ju Pigsley to step aside because they were doing litigation to make them come into compliance. It's kind of a touchy situation being a state entity. We really don't have control of the state, but we do as far as they're affecting the neighbors. So I asked them and I pushed it. We needed to take immediate action. When I did that, all of a sudden they said by the end of the month, it's going to go through legal and there'll be a prompt letter coming out, strict, that they're going to have to comply with the noise.
So, just bear with me a little bit. What happens? We get a phone call from a neighbor or an online message from a neighbor in the form of a complaint,
They go to DEP, Michelle Delmar.
and then we like forward them to Michelle, or do they immediately go to Michelle and we don't touch them?
Immediately go to Michelle.
Is there like a hotline for that facility, or like the more and more like if I was a neighbor, who would I call? Child police or?
They would call me necessarily. I'd have there was one person that from Southbridge has been calling complaining. I did a noise study at his also. So we do take every complaint. But when DEP was there, the chief enforcement officer for noise, a neighbor he noticed just outside doing work had headphones on, and he asked him why. He said because of that plant. The low pitched noise is actually keeping him and his family up, and he can't even get out in his yard. So
And that was that Michelle or somebody else?
no, her boss.
Okay.
Her boss who went there this morning, I had a long conversation with him today. He's asked for us to be patient, and because DEP can't issue anything until it goes through Mary Jude. and then it goes to legal, and then it's issued.
I understand.
And then he'll keep this board informed first, so you can see it. I'll bring it before the board, and you'll know what they're gonna be sending out
Okay.
at the time. So, it is come to the point where they have to do something. So, they know it. If you stand in front of the wall, Matt, I go there every single morning. You can't hear anything, very low. But if you're far away, there's no leaves on the tree and stuff now. It's something that is affecting people at a low, it's a different noise. They've changed the noise on it. I think I sent it to you earlier, and what it is now, it is a pure tone condition,
Yeah.
which is can be great. People won't sleep, cause all kinds of stuff. So, these are Charlton residents, have a right to have a peaceful existence. So they're going to do what they have to do to get them to do something about the noise. It's like a jet engine that's going off.
Not to go back too far in history, but I was on the LNG committee that,
Yes.
I remember what happened with that.
Yeah.
There was some property right up by Mass Pike that was about 120 acres or so, and there are no residences nearby. And we were pushing for that, and the state siting committee and the developer or whoever was doing the project realized it was probably less money, more cost effective to do it here next to the gas line and whatever.
You're right.
So that's what happened. I'm thinking, boy, they probably could have gotten away with the noise if they were still up.
Well, I think the people that work there, they're very understanding and feel bad that this is happening, but the system works the way it is, and they've hired many people to try and eliminate the sound, have sound surveys. One was canceled because of rain. They really want to do the right thing, so I think in the end they will, because
Well, just curious, right? But what if they can't get the noise down? What happens then?
100-foot tall building.
you know what, that's a discussion that I think they can, they just need the right design to mitigate that in the proper, and it's not a simple design, but I think that would have to be, that whole generator that's there that makes the noise needs to be encompassed in a building, and they didn't do that, they left it open.
Oh, so it's a generator that's
Well,
causing the
it's
trouble?
almost like a jet engine. It's what fires up, feeds the air, feeds the system, and cranks everything. They've wrapped it, they've done everything, but if you and I were standing there, I couldn't talk to you.
Is that
If I was talking, there's no way. And that goes against DEP. You must, even an outside, because of worker safety, you can't have that type of condition. If you don't have headphones on, you'll probably have the worst headache you've ever had working there all day.
What's the limit, 120?
No,
No, it's
110,
and then 10 above that.
it's what?
60
whatever ambient is
and
plus
then
10.
plus
Ambient
10.
plus 10?
So
Yeah.
what is it?
They agreed to 45, but he got a reading of 100 this morning, 104, the DEP.
So they're not even close.
No, and this is far away, Harrington Road, so it's affecting. But I'll keep the board updated. Certainly, I told them that at some point he may have to come before the board. That we need an issue with this, explain themselves. But we've been asked to step aside by Mary Ju because they were in litigation with legal action, and they asked the town, and of course,
That's a good
we'll
thing.
yield to them because we're not going to hire
They
them.
look like this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But that's been a while. It's been almost a year, so something needs to be done. But they were shut down for quite a while, so we weren't getting complaints. So now they're back. There were 4 trucks there this morning. But I'll keep the board updated, and I'll email the chair on any of the correspondence and share it with the rest of the board. But
And the DEP has much more clout
They
than
do.
the Charlton Board of Health.
well, I have a pretty good clout, I think. And as a voice of the board, when I say something, I mean it. The reason I got them going is I'm getting a meeting. We're going to take prompt action. We're going to notify the chairman. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss possible closure or temporary shutdown. And they, whoa, wait a minute. So all of a sudden now they're shaking and moving, and the director's out there this morning at 7:30 taking noise sound. But in a way, they have to do something about it. You can't. The people just can't live there.
We had between, in Webster, when they had the trucking terminal, the noise and all of that, and then we had another factory, that was noise as well. What we did was we made them do hire an acoustical engineer. The law says that you can make noise, but you can't make noise over the property line. And you have to do something to abate or mitigate it.
Mr. Chairman,
We
we've
put-
hired
we
three
put-
different firms for, not to interrupt you, but this is not like they didn't try and do the right thing.
No, I know.
Failed, hired someone else, failed, hired someone else. Acoustical, best in the country they've hired, still failed. So they're still searching of that, and DP's needs to provide the direction.
Now, this outfit, this isn't the first plant like that they built, right?
No, they similar complaints, but they put them in different places.
So the noise, they know what these things, how much noise they make. Did he do this? So why would they come in here and agree to 45 and they can't be under 100?
Because I think realistically, to get it going and worry about it later. You know what I mean?
It's either that, my understanding is, and I don't know, but the majority of those units are all out south. Texas, Colorado, they're all out there.
The middle of nowhere.
The middle of nowhere, so it's not, you know, and I even know some of the developers are saying, like, this is the tightest spot they've ever had. It's in a rural area, like, so it may be a new animal for them, who knows?
Problem is, it bounces off that back bank, and then it shoots over the top, and there's no leaves on the trees and stuff, which hopefully I'm thinking it's gonna mitigate some of that, but I don't know if we can do that, but it's
All
an
right.
ongoing issue, certainly. Today we did school inspections to make sure that schools were compliant. Our schools are very clean and well maintained.
Good.
There's some minor issues, but our schools, the kids are well maintained, well behaved. They're always on top of things, and the kitchens are old, but they're spotless. And, some of them are starting to show their age, but they did start construction by Charlton Middle School for the fire station, so that's there. But other than that, we are purchasing. We do collect sharps, Mr. Chairman, and we're in conjunction with the fire department. I have some money left in the grant that Andrew's allowed us to use, and we have approval. We're buying, what we do is store all the sharps and needles in there. They grind them up, they decontaminate them, and you can dispose of it, and it's gonna save the town a lot of money. It's about $68,000 for the machine, and $5,000 a year, which the fire department will take on. But we'll no longer have to take sharps from here. They can go to the fire department 24/7.
It's 68,000 for a machine to grind up the needles?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what's so special about it.
Kind of autoclave type thing, where they're really not reusing, but it sterilizes and then crushes it, and it's just a powder that it's inert, you can throw it away. Right now, we're spending a lot of money on, and we're using grant money, but that grant money's gonna end, and now I'd have to increase my budget quite exponentially, and the fire department has to get rid of all of theirs, so we're gonna save money. It'll pay for itself in 5 years.
Where are those coming from?
Everybody, the residents. Ozempic, diabetics, people on medication. You used to be able to put them in a Tide jar and throw them out in your trash. They're not allowed to go to landfills anymore. We have to accept them by law.
When did that start?
Geez, probably about 12, 13 years ago it started that we mandated
So
that
the
you have
town's
some.
picking the tab up for that.
The
since
town
then.
is, yes. Yep.
And what's the annual?
Well, it went from maybe 1,500 and it's doubled. It's almost tripled.
So 4,500.
Yeah, it's about $5,000.
$5,000.
It's gonna be about $5,000 a year. But if we get that machine that we're gonna purchase, it's gonna save the fire department was spending another more than that on all their shops when they treat patients. They have to pay to get rid of it. So, and it's safer for the environment. When they pick them up, they're putting in a machine that we're gonna have now. So.
All right, what else you got?
Well, just moving forward, just the girls tomorrow will be in training, meaning Kim and Molly will be gone to Devon's tomorrow to do some training for camps. Camps are coming up, we're gonna have to get those going, beach inspections, pool inspections. We're doing a lot of inspections and making sure everyone's compliant. At the same time, we have criteria that Molly and Kim have to meet, so they've been doing a lot of online training and stuff. It's tough in an open office sometimes to, even myself, I have a lot of Zoom meetings, I belong to LSAC, I'm chairman of FEP. There's meetings a lot. And what I was gonna ask you, Mr. Chairman, I know it's running late, but due to the landfill coming, we're having numerous meetings with contractors and Bruce Haskell. Could we possibly work in conjunction for meetings, now the landfill's coming, and do a combination Zoom and regular meeting, and put a big screen there, so now if there's a contractor that you've hired at the board to do the landfill, and you have in the meetings, they could actually Zoom in and you could speak to them that way. It's up to you, it's certainly your meeting, but it's just something that was brought to my attention that we could do.
Yeah, I'm all for it, like, and I thought at one time we tried that. We'd had a TV on that back wall.
Yeah, well, that TV was,
Whatever, but I'm all for it. Why wouldn't we?
But it's your call because it's your meeting and board. I just think rather than have a bunch of guys who worked at a landfill and muddy boots coming here all the time and they have to drive all the way from wherever we have, and Bruce lives on the other side of Boston, that maybe having people zoom in is just as convenient than having people drive.
I see it on the curse of Oak Island. Looks like it works there.
So, but with your permission, I'll speak with Jeff and we'll move forward of getting, so Nell will have a big screen that you can look and
Maybe
do
just
more.
angle it towards
Yeah,
our table
exactly.
a little bit.
They're gonna find it tonight, you know.
Tonight's the night.
Tonight's the night.
Yeah.
So with your permission, I will move forward on that.
I'm good with it. If these guys go with
Yeah,
it,
I'm
We'll
good.
just add a Zoom link into when we have a meeting. I think you're gonna have more and more meetings now, because the landfill, you're gonna wanna be on top and make sure you're speaking to them.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're gonna increase meetings as needed, but it's nice to know that they would be able to just, not travel an hour to come for a
Yeah.
20-minute meeting.
I agree.
The angle, put on that angled wall is gonna be not so good though, but
Well, we'll put it in a place where we can see everybody and
you want it to be kind of,
yeah, even
Yeah.
if they had to like close it and then the meeting and they kind of.
Yeah, that's what, we'll put it on a levered, so we can put it up against the wall tight and then pull it up. Andrea wasn't happy about it. She's like, it's gonna have to look right, but I think out of convenience for the, if we're gonna be doing that project, TV can always come down.
Yeah,
But
no,
I
I'm
think,
all for it.
would say Bruce, even Gary who has to come.
Yeah.
And maybe Gary could zoom in and not drive at 8 o'clock back to Tolland.
Yeah.
It just, we do pay him to come to these meetings, so
Yeah.
it'd be convenience for him too.
Sure.
But
Yeah. All good. What else we got?
I'm sure I forgot a bunch of stuff, but
do
in
you
a matter
want
of
to
time.
talk about the tobacco stings at all?
We can. I've asked. I met with. He's asked me not to mention it in a public setting until I have not issued any of the fines. Until he's. I feel that we have a better handle on why and where, and there's been some accusations that I don't want to bring up in public, but I did bring him all the information that he needed, and I've held off on issuing until we can get to the bottom of really what was. It's not that he said, she said. I wasn't there. I don't know. So they're very serious accusations, in my opinion, and I can update you off camera later if you'd like, and we can discuss it. But I think we'd like to have the parties here to discuss it with the board rather than discussing it up in here.
Single question through the chair. Is this a single store or single whatever?
We've had in the last sting, but one store in general is sort of a serious situation.
Okay, all right. That's it. That's all.
But nothing. I've called the limits to tobacco. I've spoken to the agent. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it so we can get the story set, so it never happens again, and no one's going to go in there by themselves and be subject to anything. I'm going to oversee it. I think it's the best thing to do. And we need simplification of what is there with a picture and what isn't. And so they know. And writing it down is one thing, but people are very lazy when they read, they say they understand. But I think if you simplify the paperwork and you have it, this is a sold product, here's a picture. This is a banned product, here's a picture. There's no questions later. So,
And that was the issue. Banned products were on the shelf.
essentially, yes. Yep. But
Is
the
that
last-
is that a fact or is that the accusation?
No, it's a fact, but the problem is the last time the inspection was conducted, they were there, but nothing happened. So I need to get to the bottom and do a little investigation and ensure that.
Because it maybe was an oversight and they weren't called out,
You're right.
or
But-
they were too busy sending a minor in to get it for something else.
No, this was a direct inspection. It was not a sting. It was a direct inspection of how they displayed what they had there. It was a shelf inspection. But again, I think this has been a contentious issue for many municipalities as far as, and the tickets were set by the governor, as you know. Charlton was the first to try and get their regulations, and when we got them done, what happened? He
Immediately, yeah.
Immediately,
Yeah.
he overrode every municipality because he wanted consistency. Now, the town of Charlton does get the money, but I don't think we want to ride on the backs of our hardworking convenience store owners or store owners to give exponential fines. It doesn't benefit anybody.
No.
I don't want anyone to get a fine,
Right.
and I'm going to try and prevent that.
So how does this board, the three of us, get involved in any of that? Like,
Well, that agent that's there is actually an agent of the Board of Health. She works under the authority of the local Board of Health. So when she's here, accepting that, which they make you do now, it's mandatory that everyone has it, and we're working on getting it, all our coalition members done, is that she works on behalf of this board.
She, meaning,
The person, it could be he or she or whoever.
We've never met him, right?
No, I never met her either, but I know the person, it goes in rotation, I have a bunch of inspectors. But when that person's there,
is
they're
it state
agreed to
inspector
follow.
you're talking about?
Excuse me?
Is this a state inspector or?
No.
No. It's a tobacco coalition funded by the state in the benefit of all municipalities, which is mandated by DPH that all tobacco things be done by a qualified person and they pay them. We don't have to.
So, just to back up the story, some time ago, our board joined the Leominster Tobacco Alliance. I didn't remember doing it. John didn't remember doing it at the time. We signed something, or somebody signed something, but we didn't know it happened. But it happened. They gave funding to our town. All right, there was some state grant money or funds or something.
We don't receive any direct funding. They fund the Leominster Tobacco Coalition, and the agreement is that we used to belong to Worcester. Worcester folded. We don't have Worcester anymore. So there are other, small little factions of coalition.
So I was under the impression that, because I said, I don't want to be part of this Leominster. Like when I found out what was going on and the fines and all this, I was like, whoa, let's let Charlton do Charlton, Leominster do Leominster, and we'll.
Yeah.
But then I was told we had grant money that if we.
Oh, that part, yeah.
If we backed out of the coalition, then we would be on the hook for back paying that. And at the time I said, well, how much longer do we have on the coalition? And I think it was originally a 3-year deal, a 5-year deal or something. There's a number on it.
There's a number, yeah.
And I think we're getting close to the tail end of it.
So you can let it go at that point.
If it
Then
was.
Molly would be, Molly and Mary, when you would lose the funding, would have to pay the state back. Because they force you to make sure there's tobacco. Tobacco inspections are not, they're mandated for all local boards of health. It's not like you have a choice. You're going to belong to someone. And if I did it myself and they were there, I'd have no choice but to get the same ticket.
Right.
I just think consistency inspections, and they don't like it. They think that they, but, I do make sure that they're well versed on what they should and shouldn't do, and give them some kind of update of it's coming soon. But they seem to not get what they can sell just because someone's selling it, and you go to BJ's. Just like if you go to Connecticut and buy a hydronic heater, outdoor wood burner, they're not compliant in Massachusetts. They'll sell it to you, they don't care, and then when you put it in, they say, well, they sold it to me. Well, it still doesn't make it right.
Right.
So it's a fine line, it's a tough fine, and we hate to do it to small stores, but we don't do it. But unfortunately, I have to sign it at some point, but I've held off until I spoke to you and make sure this doesn't happen again, and give them ample time to get themselves back together. And they came in here, I've spoken to them, I brought them the proper paperwork. So at the time I issue the ticket, I think I'll have him come to the meeting and speak to the board, because he would like to.
So.
He and she.
Yeah, there was a time where, before technology is as good as it is now, you have a license, you scan it, you either pass or don't pass. It's not some kid trying to look at the date and see if you're eligible. It's bleep, bleep, good or not. But they would send a minor that looked older and go in and, I got you, you sold you alcohol, or I sold you cigarettes, or whatever this thing was. They'd come out, the minor would come out, hey, I got the goods, right? The cop would go right back in and say, you just sold to this person illegally to a minor, and get in trouble, the fines and all that. Okay. Then what we had a problem with this board, specifically me, was one of our stores got a fine in the mail, like 6 or 8 weeks later. Back on such and such date, we conducted a sting, you sold to a minor, you did this and that. And the store owner was like, I can't even see who my, like,
Yeah, it's
what is
bullshit,
that?
right?
Like, how they weren't able to go back, see who the cashier was to try and solve the problem.
Right.
So it was complicated on, did it happen, did it not happen, just because, so our board tried to have a discussion onto doing that. it's been a little bit of a rocky road, but, and it's, I like the method, but we give a heads up. When we know there's a sting coming, we notify the stores. And it's not a secret, because at the end of the day, what we want is full compliance. So, hey, get ready, there's a sting coming. Oh, we double check, triple check, make sure everything's good. We come and inspect, everything's good. In the meantime, they're in compliance, like, but somehow this time there was a product being sold, not trying to hide it, get away with anything. They just didn't know it was a product that wasn't supposed to be sold, I guess is what you're saying. I don't know.
The problem is it's the menthol. Sometimes you don't read the product. You can now sell anything menthol in Massachusetts, period. There are some stores that are hiding them in the drawers, and not around here, but they found them and they are selling them. And so if they find out that someone's coming, it's illegal to sell them. The problem is they have more restrictions on tobacco, which is legal, and just started marijuana, and we don't really have any say in that.
Yeah.
It's kind of backwards.
Kind of stupid.
It is. So, anyways, there was a store that had a pretty hefty fine on it, and I just didn't know, you know, where we will, what our say was, like.
This the most recent one? Same store?
This was a
No,
year or two
no.
ago,
No.
and there was $1,000 fine, right?
Well, this one's more than that, I'll tell you.
okay.
So, you know, we don't like to say anyone, but my responsibility is to assure that when the inspections go in there on your behalf of the board, as this person is working on behalf of the Charlton Board of Health, everyone gets treated with respect. They do the proper inspection, make sure everyone is well informed, and a fine is the last thing you should give if it happens. But I think there's no forgiveness in there. You know what I mean? There has to be, you know. But I think they get the message because 3 other stores just got a warning. So I have to find out why a warning this. I don't want to see anyone get a ticket, but
So the stores that got the warning, was it for the same thing?
no, something different.
Something different?
It's minor, like your tobacco is too close, and someone could lean in and grab it. And it's
Gotcha.
different. So it is very fine. It depends how strict the person wants to be. So, but I will keep the board informed, and I won't do anything with the ticket until the board is aware that I have no choice but because they try to.
I'd like to hear, like, the facts of the case and
Absolutely.
see what happened, and then just curious, so what, like, when it comes to us, what right does our board have? Can we do anything? Can we reduce the fine? Can we eliminate it? Can we, because I'm on the understanding there was a suspension of sales and then a monetary fine. Is that what this
It will
person's
be, but
facing?
it has not happened. They set the date, but I told them that I'm not abiding by that until I inform the board of the situation and will resolve the serious complaint that happened during this. It's not just in my opinion, it's an egregious thing that they're accusing this person of. So now we're getting back in he said, she said, and I don't want somebody to see them lose their job, but I certainly don't want someone treated unfairly and disrespected.
No, I'm just curious. So then what, when it comes before the board, what can we do?
The fine, there's nothing you do. If you told them that they didn't have to pay the fine, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts would charge the town, and you'd have to pay the fine. No questions asked. The 7-day suspension of tobacco sales, that's my question. Can you reduce it to 3 or 2? It's a second offense, and they're saying no, so I'm trying to resolve that issue.
And that's what it is, a 7-day suspension? I thought you had said 30.
Not yet, no.
I'm just curious, I'm not,
No, and I've asked him that if he'd like to, the person in question would like to be here to speak to the board once we resolve all those issues of accusations. I don't think we should litigate that before the board because these are outside the realm of, this is personal.
who are the accusations between the Leominster Coalition and the store?
The inspector and the owner of the store.
But the inspector works for us.
The inspector is actually, in her performance of her duties here, is an agent of the Board of Health of Charlton when she's here.
So we're having a discrepancy with the store on this? And you're trying to figure it out?
We're having a discrepancy whether I bring this up before the board for her, of this person, or I can't do names because of whether you would want her back here to do it or you would request someone else.
I see. I'm just curious, yeah.
I'm just trying not to step on the legal side of, because they've mentioned an attorney and all that, so that's their right, but, you know, look at tonight. Attorneys do nothing but cause havoc, in my opinion. I think you should settle it between, if you can, without paying someone to litigate who doesn't have no purpose in it. So,
Am I supposed to sign that?
I don't think you need to. You can if you like.
that's all I have, Mr. Chairman,
Well, sure they did.
and I will keep the board updated on all those issues.
All right. Any other discussion from anybody? Tom? John?
No,
Steve? Anything
Getting to
else?
be my bedtime.
Do I hear a motion?
We got a next meeting.
Oh, yeah. One more.
4 weeks from now would be June 3rd, if I'm reading the calendar correctly. June 3rd, Tuesday. Does Gary have anything for us?
We good for June 3rd, a week, a month?
Whatever you said.
You're not gonna be on some cruise or something?
My daughter's getting married July 12th, that's all.
Oh,
How about these ADUs? Are these gonna be coming in like wildfire, or are we gonna be like isolated, like one here, one there?
I think I am going to bring any ADU before the board until I hear otherwise, because I think a decision the board has to make based upon the circumstances presented to you. And I don't think I can pick and choose,
Right.
because it's not within our, it's above and beyond what our regulations state. So it's something that the board should decide. I think you have to take each case, whether you're gonna live there, you're gonna rent it. Because remember, the board, I do the minimum standards of fitness for human habitation inspection. So if you're a tenant and a call a complaint, the ADUs could complain.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
now I have to know who to enforce this because you're renting and they have renters' rights.
So, but for us, and I understand what you're saying about the renters' rights, but we can't go based on what they're gonna tell us, because that could change.
Exactly.
So I feel like we have to go on, is it a detached? Is it an attached? Those are the two things. And then if it's a detached, we're gonna put a deed restriction on it. So that, the detached definitely have to come before the board.
Yeah.
And then the attached ones, do they have to come to the board if they have a current Title V past inspection and their septic meets Tom's needs? Do they need to come to the board?
That's your decision, because in my opinion, it's not really a shared well, because it's attached to the
It's not a
unit, it's
shared
just not a
well.
bedroom.
It's not I don't see where it's a shared well.
That's where
You, Tom? You agree?
No, it's just, like, Jim's the one with all that. He's gotta decide whether, if it's one building and one well, it's not a problem. But if you've got two remote buildings with a water supply and you've got one pump pumping to two different buildings, that's a whole different ballgame.
So it sounds like we're gonna approve,
It is and it isn't.
Well, I understand, that's why, like I said, probably rely on your expertise to say, you know, this is what you really need to do, to make sure, we gotta make sure that when the well croaks, it's like the septic system, he's gotta go out and he's gotta do enforcement.
but that's on the separated buildings.
Yeah, but it's still the same owner, so there's no fist fight. I mean,
Right.
the guy, if the pump craps out, neither one's gonna have any water. Landlord or
Well, I think that you need to make a decision, because if it's clear cut, I can make a decision now, and Tom and I together, if the Title V. But if it's not, or do you want every one of them to come to you? But this guy's been waiting for quite a while.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's a detached dwelling, I think they do need to come to the board, because I think we need to, at a minimum, do the deed restriction conversation. But if it's an attached, as long as they meet the Title V, then they don't need to come. I
what
don't
do they
know.
gotta come to us to tell them to get a deed restriction for?
Well, I guess they don't.
No, you
I
can
mean-
do with a deed restriction, all you do is just give them the form, the template. And our girls should not have to sit there and try to pound those things out. That's what the lawyers get paid for.
Yeah, but I think the problem is now, is Tom was saying that if you add that and you consider ADU, you need to do a Title V. But if you added a bedroom and you had enough flow and it was already a approved system, you didn't. So
You didn't what?
you didn't have to get a
Yeah,
Title V.
You still need a Title
still
V.
need a-
So that's the thing. I think all of them should do a Title V, but
I agree.
Yeah, I agree, but
That's part of the application.
So if they're attached, we don't, and they're approved, and they have enough septic, and they do the Title V and it passes, then you don't have a problem approving it and sharing that well, because it's basically the same building.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like putting addition.
Exactly,
So
but if they're separated,
if they're separated, now, as long as the septic can still accommodate it, right?
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
it's
That's
the
first and
discussion on the
foremost.
well.
yeah,
I don't see where it makes any difference.
All right, so then the only thing this board is probably going to require is if it's detached, then the paperwork, like you say, the lawyers can do the deed restriction
okay. On detached only, right?
on detached.
The only thing that I see is that you gotta make sure, if there's filtration in the main house,
That it's continuation
that
of
it's,
it.
that the water that's piped to the, so
Right.
I'm thinking maybe a water quality test out of the tap in that new house would be the way to make sure that it's,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
That's the only time we can really get our authority to make them do a water quality test, especially with PFAS 6 coming along
Right.
and what's going on, that in the best interest, but if they have an existing filtration system, I think that should extend to the
Yeah, but
ADU.
You don't know if it's operating properly.
You're right.
These
We don't know.
arsenic filters need maintenance, periodic maintenance, and if they're not maintained, then
I go into apartments where
Yeah.
the building has had filtration in there and it's bypassed, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what they do,
Yeah.
they do that with septic systems
They
too.
just bypass it.
They take the, those nice filters that we put in,
Yeah.
they take the filters and they throw them in the bottom of the tank.
So for an ADU,
a detached.
a detached, we're looking for, in addition to these, so for any ADU, they're gonna meet the Title V requirement,
They have to have a Title V inspection, they have to meet,
the
they have to
sizing.
meet all the
That's
requirements. of
state law,
Title
that's
V.
state law.
Right.
And you know what?
So-
That's common sense.
So that's that.
Mhm.
So for a detached, we want a water quality.
Mhm.
What is it gonna be, Charlton new construction water quality, or is it gonna be something that includes PFAS, or what's it gonna be?
It's the Charlton well regulations until they're changed, that's what we enforce.
Okay. So it's just a new
The
construction,
VOCs
right?
are there, but PFAS is currently not included in,
Yeah.
they don't know what to do with this.
Oh, I know.
The last
Yeah.
I saw on PFAS and stuff now, they're just talking inactivated charcoal filter. They're actually poo-pooing RO. RO will take it out,
With reverse osmosis, yeah, but the thing is, you can't get rid of the filters.
but you can't get rid of
use
the
them.
filters, because now they're loaded with contaminants.
We can get another box and start accepting them. Hey, for 76 grand, can you get rid of
Get
PFAS?
a grant, get another grant.
Get
I get a lot of grants,
Yeah.
believe me.
Well, the
So-
charcoal's gonna do the same thing, I mean, it's gonna catch it, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
what are you gonna do with it?
I just don't want to slow up someone,
There
like this
isn't a
guy was
neighbor's
very
yard.
patient,
Give it
but I
the
said,
big
listen, you're the
hands on
first one. I need to go before the board because I'm not sure what direction you need to go. I know, but he says everything now, but in 10 years from now, the whole situation could change.
course it
Anything could change.
Yeah.
And
Well,
nothing
that's
is
it.
forever.
Yeah, you never can tell. Family,
And he's a nice guy, and I said, it's not
Families
about you.
deteriorate.
I said that the board needs to make a informed decision on what's gonna happen 10 and 15 years from now. What happens to separation of family, you know?
Not only that, it's what it is, not who it is.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. Could care less what he was saying, and I said that to him, like, and it was no offense, because, and I hear him, and I believe everything he's saying and all that. Doesn't matter to me. Like,
Yeah.
and some of this, he said, she said on that, didn't matter to me
Oh,
either. You know. So, but we got through it. But I'm just saying. So back to the the whatever, the accessory dwelling units.
Yeah.
Detached. We're going to require water quality. Do we need to vote on that?
Or should you even require it on the attached ones? They could still circumvent the filtration system. You almost gotta do it on them too, right, Tom?
But what are they?
I would guess,
A
if
full
you're gonna
test
do-
is gonna cost,
Steve-
unless you do an E-coli and call form only, but if you're gonna do a test, you're gonna do,
You do
and what
the-
if you find something now and they don't have a filtration system, and now we have to enforce that?
Do the conventional,
Well, it is what it is.
conventional
It is what
Title
it is.
V test.
You're doing them a
Nitrates,
favor.
nitrates,
If there's
and ammonia.
arsenic or radon or whatever,
Yeah.
and
People don't realize
they don't know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
As much as they don't like.
That's
it.
why I brought it before the board, because this is not a simple thing. This is new and it should be discussed. Yet, we don't want someone waiting through the whole building season and finally tell him that he can or can't. They kind of want to know now. He spent a lot of money. but
Well,
certainly.
We already closed discussion on the ADUs, now we just opened it back up. So do we need to continue that to another meeting? Do we open that up during this meeting?
It's up to you, Mr. Chairman, I just think that.
I feel like if we're gonna require water quality tests, this board should vote on it. Can we do that now? Or do
You
we,
can do anything you want, you're the board, you're the authority.
I know, but because we closed it, can I reopen that? Can I reopen the ADU
Someone make a motion to
conversation?
reopen the discussion on ADU, second it, and there it is.
I'll make a motion to reopen the ADU discussion.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the motion's back open. Do we need to vote on the water quality? I think we should. I
Sure,
think we should
because I have
vote
no
on
way
it.
to enforce it unless the board tells me, and that we have it in our record. If we don't, then they're gonna say, why do I have to do it? Because they want you to?
I think
No,
it's a
because
good
the board
idea.
voted on it as part of this new, we're just protecting you. And if you're gonna rent to someone else or have people in there, we need to know that before we approve someone to live there,
Yeah.
that's part of the minimum standards of fitness for human habitation, is potable water.
Yeah, and so many times, the new construction, we sign off and we don't know what happens for the next
We don't.
20, 30 years. There's no saying it. This is a good refresher for those people, especially if it was family. It's either gonna be older or younger, living in them.
Right, you know what
Hey,
you're
let's see
drinking
what the
that.
water is. It's one way they can do it. It's a forced cleansing the sea. I know it's money, but it's water.
But still, you're talking minimum. You're talking minimum. We're not talking PFAS, we're not doing,
Oh,
PFAS is not in there.
the Charlton
You're doing
scan is not
VOCs?
minimal. It's pretty entailed. There's
okay, so this is.
Charlton has a list of 100 VOCs in there.
Yeah.
That's all.
You're doing
VOCs
VOCs,
and-
you're talking
Yeah.
about $3,000 bucks.
Oh, it's $800-900.
It's 900 bucks.
Is it 900 bucks
Yeah.
now?
Sometimes people get it for 750 or 8,
Well,
depending.
I'm just saying, it's
Okay.
just under $1,000 usually.
It is.
Yeah. So,
So,
but it should be collected at the point of use. Before occupancy, it should
Point
be
of
collected
use.
from the kitchen sink,
Kitchen sink.
right?
yeah.
And that's,
You don't need for a shower or for a toilet or
Well,
for
then
water in the
people are gonna
garden.
ask, can I put a point of entry?
Public.
Can I put it below the sink for point of use? There.
That's point of use, right.
So now put it under each sink, or do you need a whole house filter? That's another
well,
thing.
they're gonna, if they put a RO under the sink, you're not gonna put a whole house filter under the sink that's
No,
gonna
you
take
put
an
an RO,
arsenic
small.
or anything. I mean,
I've seen them under there.
it's the arsenic and the radon.
Radon,
and the gross alpha and all that stuff, and they're not gonna take that out with that, so it's gonna show up, whatever they do, pretty
The
much.
arsenic and stuff will come out with an RO. That'll come out with the RO filter.
Right, but the radioactive stuff won't.
No.
All right, so let's,
So that's what I'm saying, if they put something, a cheap, an RO under a point,
That's a point of use, under the sink is,
yeah.
I think that's more what you're worried about.
Well, our regulations are clear what they have to test for, and we'll stick to that until the board decides to make any changes.
all right.
Maybe I shouldn't have used the term point of use. I should have used the term kitchen sink. But whether it's a kitchen sink and a bathroom sink,
Yeah, the bathroom doesn't count. Spitting, washing your teeth and spitting doesn't count. It's-
Incidental consumption right there.
So kitchen sink of the ADU only, not going back into
Right,
the other house.
right.
Right? Because that would be
well,
possibly
they gotta hook on the
overstepping.
system and run a pipe over there.
Right,
Who's to
yeah.
say they're not gonna tie it in before the filtration system?
Yeah, it would be point of use at the ADU dwelling.
Right.
New or
Yeah.
detached.
Yeah,
And that's fair.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, you can't force them to, I don't think you can force them to test the existing unit, but you can
No, 'cause
require it on the
Matt
new
said,
one.
Yeah, you can. The Board of Health can do anything it wants to on.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
They
whoa.
can. They can. I got
With
one,
reason.
I got one town out there that she wants it tested every 3 years.
Yeah, but we don't wanna be that.
But you know what I'm talking
I'm
about.
not that town. I think for the best interest, if they're gonna do ADU and spend that money, $1,000 is nothing. Because like you said, he's spending a lot of money on his, and he did.
Oh, you're gonna be surprised how many of them are gonna show up with problems.
All right, Vice Chair, you want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to accept,
Requirements for testing at the ADU for water quality.
correct.
Sorry, understood.
good.
Point of use at the new
At the
dwelling.
new, in the new dwelling.
In the new dwelling.
Kitchen sink, do you want to specify that?
In parentheses.
Well,
All right.
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, wait. Somebody had to second that motion. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's getting late.
Yeah,
All right,
We've been through a lot tonight.
yeah.
all right, so yeah, next meeting, was it June 2,
June 3rd.
June 3?
Will I get an email this time?
You did?
I don't know. I got
I
a.
did.
I was CC'd on it.
Let's go for June 3.
You did?
Yeah, I actually get them too.
Yeah, but I don't know
I'll
why
call
I
you.
didn't get a notification.
And 6 PM.
Yep.
Do I hear a motion?
I make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
8:25.
There we go. Hey, that's like a record.
Sorry, Andrea.